It's that time.
It's that time.
It's that time.
We're here. It's that time. Woolie, I feel like I kind of found myself in one of them real life Paragon Renegade situations recently. Yeah, huh?
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm kind of...
Well, your skin is looking like nice and moisturized. You're not looking too cracked, so I'm assuming we're still on the side of the blue right now.
Well, I mean, you got to get pretty far down that Renegade meter before it starts aesthetically manifesting. So I don't know. Anyway, I was in training, and I'm kind of going between two places right now. I'm like finishing up in both before the move, and I trying to get a couple of classes in, trying to roll with everyone, and I'm going to this place, and there's a kids class finishing up before me. And I'm just kind of on the mats, kind of stretching, just kind of waiting for everyone to kind of, the transition between classes and stuff. And next thing, this little girl walks by me. And dude, I swear to God, she couldn't be more than like 7 years old. And she gives me that like 1,000-yard stare that kids do. The real like...
Mm-hmm. No awareness, I'm in my world, and you are something fascinating.
Nothing.
Targeted.
Yeah,
yep.
Nothing at all. And I take no notice of it because it's a kid, and that's what they do. And so she walks past me or whatever, and I'm just sitting there stretching. And next thing, I feel two little arms just rear naked.
What?
Like straight up, like, I don't know what's happening at first, and I'm like, this really feels like a rear, and is it one of the guys? Like, what? But then I'm like, I can kind of feel that. I'm like, those are tiny child arms. And I'm like, okay, so first of all, this is incredibly uncool for anyone who has sense. This is a tiny child. And like, when I say 7 might be pushing it.
Okay.
Like, this child is so young, right?
Is there a kids class going on, or is this someone's
It's just
kid?
Finished up, and I think both. I think this kid has just had a class, and her mom is getting changed.
Okay. So she's full of it right now. She's just crackling with jujitsu energy.
And the way a rear naked choke works, Woolie, is like there's two ways it can get you. One, it can compress the front of your throat, and that's the choke out. Mm-hmm. That's the that's that. Or it can pinch the two carotid arteries on the side of your neck, and if it gets them just right, what happens is you see stars and you pass out.
You're gone.
The common knowledge is if you're seeing stars, it is nearly too late.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, like, I'm kind of there for a second, and I'm just stunned. And next thing, stars start flashing.
Whoa. What the fuck?
And I know that I have maybe like 1 or 2 seconds to figure out what to do here. Because, Woolie, I have 2 options, right?
Oh, no.
I can tap out to this 7-year-old child, or I can Hugo Third Strike Hyper Art Gigas Breaker her into the fucking ground.
Oh my, okay, so one, you are just minding your business, and then you...
I am just stretching. I'm trying to loosen up my hips. They get tight when I roll, and it gets hard to triangle.
And for some reason, you have drawn aggro of a child.
I have drawn aggro of this low level NPC who real like crowd of skeletons in Dark Souls causing you to stumble situation.
But she's trying to get that dub. She wants to get a win.
She needs that dub. She needs the XP. She needs the street cred.
So ambush into rear naked, and you're seconds away from the stars. Now, how do you even know that a tap would work at this point? Like,
Woolie, here's the thing. I don't.
We're outside the rules. This is chaos now.
This isn't like a match.
Yeah.
And so I'm like it flashes from my head. Okay, This girl knows enough jujitsu to do an effective rear naked choke. She understands the tap, right?
But not enough to understand you don't just put that on that unwillingly ambushing someone. Right?
Yep. So,
no.
But even still, it's not a great choice because it is tap out to a 7-year-old girl or get choked out by one.
Why would you teach how to fire and aim without teaching how to unload the bullet and put the safety on? You know, this is bad. Okay, you're in it.
Yeah. So the bereaved family have brought a lawsuit against me.
I mean, you're not out. It is not outside the realm of your actions, your choices. There's a whole bunch of them that would usually be grayed out when you approach a child in a jiu-jitsu gym, right? But in this situation, some of those options become available. Yeah.
So
there are some moves that can now be unlocked that were previously grayed. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I can finally bring my special custom finisher out called Childhood's End.
Birth of a new era.
Welcome to adulthood, motherfucker.
Oh my god.
So anyway, like I reach up and I just like tap her arm and she lets me go.
Okay.
But dude, I am haunted by the reality where I tap her and she doesn't let me go.
Yeah.
Because that is literal choice, body slam a child or get choked out by one.
I mean...
And here is my challenge to BioWare. If you do not have a Paragon Renegade choice that compelling in Mass Effect 4, don't even fucking try. Just halt the development of the game right now. You fucked up, okay?
And you see, BioWare, cowards though they might be, you know who isn't? Zaum, Disco Elysium, gives you that choice. More than once, actually. You get at least 2 versions of that choice in the game. So, God bless. Man. Yeah, that's the problem is you're making a hard read, but the kid that knows how to rear naked choke, but not to put it on somebody out of nowhere, might not respect the tap. You know?
Oh,
they might have only learned snap or nap.
Yeah. There's a third one?
We didn't get to that today. That comes next week. Oh boy.
Oh man.
Well,
but hey, look, I survived. And I'm Eyepatch Wolf.
I'm Woolie Versus. And we are
Versus Wolf.
Man. Okay, so I mean, just as you're talking about handling this kid, this encounter, how do you think this child would have fared up against one Cade Ruotolo or Andrew Tackett? Did you that match that was sent along from?
I have not had a chance to watch it, unfortunately. Damn. Okay. But please tell the story of this match because I'm excited.
So it's just it's one of these things. So Command Grab James sent me this and said, "Yo, pass this along. This is probably the greatest grappling match I've ever seen." And
oh fuck!
I mean, it is just there's not much to it except I'm like, this is one of those matches where it's like, yeah, if you don't know the sport, if you don't know what's going on, you can still get extremely hype watching the back and forth because these are 2 really good grapplers that are like very young. They're both like 20. On the low side of 22 or 23 or so, like really young and just incredible back and forth countering things that you have like seconds to counter and there's a couple of moments of like that should be the end because that is a a joint might snap or break here type of situation, but if you just like willpower it, you can you can get out of that. And it's a insane, just Brazilian jiu-jitsu rolling like match that goes to the absolute wire. I think you can just literally YouTube the greatest grappling match ever, Cade Ruotolo versus Andrew Tackett. It's the way I felt watching that after watching that was the way I felt watching like the best match of Fist of the North Star, that amazing fighting game, like legendary.
Oh
match.
yeah,
like,
yeah.
It was like that. It was like, oh my god, which way is this gonna go? It was incredible.
It's great. It really feels like grappling is kind of having its moments.
And like this in particular, what he pointed out was that like it's showing how wrestling in particular is affecting the game, you know, and how like it's becoming more prominent.
Jiu-jitsu is definitely like the place I go right now has just started having like wrestling classes, and there is an absolute fucking killer from Bulgaria who's teaching them. And I have seen videos of the dude. I don't know I'm going to get a chance to lock arms with him before the move, but if I do, while we're standing up, it's this guy's world. Like, it's just I'm dead, and I'm kind of excited for that.
Okay,
it's actually kind of sad. Like I'm moving next week, and I had to send a message today to like the morning grapple crowd of being like, hey guys, I'm moving. I'm not going to be around anymore. Thanks for the last 5 years. Monday's going to be my last class, so whoever wants to stop by, like, you know, I'd love to get one last roll in. And they immediately, like, all the black and brown belts in there just immediately started going, Shark Tank, Shark Tank, Shark Tank. So I will
what's that?
Report back. Your guess is as good as mine, dude, but I have some idea.
Okay, all right.
And I will report back on that on the next Versus Wolves, or depending on how it goes, maybe not. Like, well, maybe this is it for me.
So John goes to the gym. It's the Shark Tank is a special secret layer. Doors open up, and it's a 7-year-old child. That girl's like,
she's
on.
there. No taps this time.
Oh no! Oh boy.
Oh man. But yeah, you know, Woolie, I don't know about you, but I feel like after the last episode of Versus Wolves, I felt a kind of shift in the energy of this podcast.
Shift in the energy.
Yeah, I think you know, a lot of stuff has gone down since the start of this podcast, and I think we can both agree that you know, Versus Wolves has been very successful, and like, you know, we have obtained the coolest fucking community, but you know, hasn't really gone like we were planning. There's been a lot of aggression. There's been a lot of kind of
it got spicy.
There's been some. Okay, I'll say it. I don't mind saying it. There's been some mean-spirited horseplay.
Okay. You know, but I can say this. I feel, John, like we finally have started the podcast that we meant to start.
Absolutely.
This feels like the beginning of where we were meant to be.
Absolutely, because like now it's been good shit, and we both got to recommend something really from the heart last time. And I just feel like all the rivalry, all the animosity, all the just resentment, it's like fucking magic. It's gone. And that's why I feel, now, if you're okay with this, of course, that's why I feel comfortable calling this new era of Versus Wolves the friendship era.
If we have to give arcs, if we have to give name to arcs, then I suppose that is fitting. I guess so.
Yeah, the animosity era is over. I know some percentage of our audience enjoyed that. Unfortunately, if that's what you're into, look, I'm going to say it, might as well turn off the podcast right now.
Yeah, no,
unsub from the Patreon. Stop supporting us financially.
It's always great to see when the wiki gets a new entry, and like, you know, like you can expand and then you can close, and yes, the opening hostilities have come to a close. It feels like we can absolutely enjoy sharing experiences that are worth sharing, with each other.
I 100% agree. Absolutely.
Yes. And again, I want to say once again, I was very moved and touched by the spirit of your recommendation last month as well. And I do think that that was especially like the opening, the first double recommend. Yeah. You're all right.
And,
You're all right, buddy. You're all right.
Oh, Woolie, you're all right. Okay.
You know what? You might even be grand.
So I actually had a conversation with a Canadian recently about what does grand mean in Ireland, and because I was like, yeah, it's grand, and this Canadian was like, what does that mean here? And I'm like, it means like okay, it means all right.
It's not mid, but it means don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's acceptable. So Woolie, I think you're acceptable.
I think you're grand.
Excellent. And as for what might have, that was definitely a part of what maybe spurned this new era of peace and love on Versus Wolves. But there might have been something else as well, Woolie. We may have discovered. Okay, this is a shoot. This is legitimate.
Actually,
that we, yeah. We have some weird ancestry in common.
Yeah. So what I
in the darkest possible way. And I don't mean to laugh at it because this next little bit's going to be pretty dark. But I just don't know what else to do.
Well, it's history, is what it is.
Yep.
I mean, when I came over there, I did some research and was trying to figure out what I could about the name Madden and where it came from and all these things. And so part of the arc in Gone in 60 Seconds, of course, was trying to go find a Madden castle. Because it turns out not only is Madden a name that comes from Ireland, but there is a clan that had many castles, and you can find some of them in different areas, and in most cases dilapidated and no longer functioning. But they're around, and so that was this whole journey into looking up the connections of how they got there and why and what, and it was just incredibly interesting, and that was a fun little taste. And so I kind of I left with more of that curiosity in my mind, and over time I've found out a couple more things, and recently this video that came out not too long ago. It's called The Powerful Historical Connection Between Jamaica and Ireland. I was watching
Wild.
And it goes into a couple of interesting details. In particular, it introduces that the name Madden, one of the folks connected to that. So essentially, a lot of people from Ireland around the Cromwell era, the Cromwellian times, were shipped off to the islands.
So I believe the specific event they talk about is 10,000 Irish children being rounded up from across the country and shipped off to Jamaica.
And Barbados as well. Those are the connection points. Barbados was where a lot of them landed first and then went to different islands from there. So that's, how other places so my Grenadian side is via double connection. But for Jamaica, there was a whole lot of direct lineage, direct people that were sent. And so from that came plantations, and plantations with names that were then adopted by the people that, were parts of those plantations. So it was really interesting because early on it lists the name Madden, and then talks about Richard Robert Madden, who is someone who was sent to oversee the conditions of how things were going with essentially with slavery in the islands. And he was one of the people that ended up he was the beginnings of what was the first abolitionists, and ended up being like essentially being really horrified by what he saw, and there's a whole entry on like how like he kind of got chased out for opposing the slavery and conditions and such, and then ended up being one of the founding people behind a larger abolitionist movement, which is pretty interesting to say the least at the time. And in that, the name then went down to, there's like two major branches or so. There's certainly there's one that's behind a number of like funeral homes and things like that are known as Maddens over in Jamaica. And then there's my side as well, which is the opposite end. And there's a common ancestor. There's in that whole part where they're describing the descendants of Madden, they even show artwork of my sister whose paintings are my back tattoo, right? So one of the things in that montage.
Oh, I did not pick up on that at all. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
It was really cool. I was like, huh, it really is that connected. That's really interesting. And then a little bit later on, it goes on to describe how that's why some of the accent sounds a little bit similar in some cases. There's some words that are pronounced in the same way. Some of the R's have a little bit of that little, there's a little bit of that twinge to them that sounds similar between Patois and Irish. And that's why you see names as well in Jamaica that are quite common. So if you have a name such as Burke, Clark, Collins, Lynch, Murphy, or Walsh,
which was
you have connections
wild
to Jamaica.
Like, I was not aware that there was that lineage, and it was bizarre. Because I think when you look at dark Irish history, we kind of stop at the famine a lot of the time. We're like, well, that's pretty fucking bad. There's plenty of sadness to go around there.
Oh yeah, on my mom's.
It turns out it's
on my mom's side. You trace the lineage up and you stop at the boat. You know what I mean? Like, you're just that's where that's going, right?
I think there was one bit in this that I just found so incredibly dark, and it was Irish slave, not worth a whole lot. Jamaican slave, not worth a whole lot. But if you can crossbreed them, then you get a really valuable slave, and it's like, what the fuck is happening? Like, are you serious? This was a thing they did?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, because, property, right? So everything that entails. It's quite wild to go back and see how direct a lot of that is. But I also am just thinking, I'm like, I absolutely do know Jamaicans with the last name Collins and with the last name Clark and things like that. Like, I know those people. Yeah. So those names are names that I'm absolutely familiar with. So yeah, throw Walsh on the list as well. There is a connection.
So we're family, Woolie. Is what
we are. We are confirmed brothers.
We are confirmed brothers. Holy shit! What a twist.
Yes, and
do you think our ancestors would look at us doing this podcast, and do you think they'd be like, "That's really cool," or do you think you'd be like, "These two probably shouldn't do a podcast together"?
I mean, all I can think of is we were trying to figure out how to cast RRR2.
Oh wow, we have some real.
Well, hold on a minute now. We've got an entire monarchy to topple and some suspenders to put on, because
oh god,
this connection's
every
real.
now and then I remember that we have to do that dance, and it haunts me.
Hey, it's for a good cause. It's for the crumbling of Buckingham, all right? We do it.
I mean, if that's how we're doing it, that's pretty okay. You know what, Woolie? Speaking of which, I went over to London recently for AEW's All In. I did. I met not even friend of the show, editor of the show, Foxcade. Me and Foxcade have met multiple times before, but it was such a blast to be able to spend just like the whole weekend with him. And he came back to Ireland, but there was a moment at the start of All In where Martha Hart came out, and Martha Hart is Owen Hart's wife. Owen Hart, who died in the ring famously. And Martha Hart's, you know what? She seems like a lovely woman, and she seems great. But she kind of gave a little speech at the start of the show, and she wasn't the most adept public speaker, you know, the kind of way. It was a little, you know, whatever. And then right at the end, she just goes, "As a Canadian, I just want to say how proud we are to be part of the Commonwealth." And I was like, what did she just say? And I was like, are you serious? But like, I mean, it's just
Nuclear
me in
heat.
London. Yeah. But like in a stadium of 80,000 people, nuclear heat from me, you know, like, because everyone else is like, yeah. And like, we're there with Dom, who's a friend of Foxcade, who's a lovely guy, and he was kind of like, oh, is that a problem? I was like, yo,
God damn it. Well, it gives us a strong passport, I guess.
I mean, yeah, that's true.
What
that's
the
true.
fuck, man?
I couldn't believe it. I was like,
no, Miss Hart. Oh,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I went for dinner with you know, a bunch of the crew on Wednesday, and I told them, and everyone was just like, what? But side note, All In was spectacular, absolutely fucking incredible.
Okay.
Main event was Swerve Strickland versus Bryan Danielson. Swerve Strickland is very quickly just becoming like a modern day GOAT. It's like every match he has, he's more and more there. Have you ever seen Swerve, Woolie?
I haven't, no.
Look him up.
Okay,
Look him up.
okay.
He has the sickest fucking look. He is incredible. But it was him and Bryan Danielson, and it was Bryan Danielson's like, this is my last shot at the title match. And if you want to see a stadium of 80,000 people, or 70,000, I don't know what, 60,000, whatever it was, in unison going, yes! Yes!
Yeah.
I swear to God, dude, it's been a long time since I felt that much pure joy. It was amazing.
Nice. I don't suppose MXM were there, were they?
MXM, I'm not sure.
That's Mace
Who is...
X Mansoor, male modeling.
Unfortunately not.
Okay, the homie, the bros.
Mm-hmm,
absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, all right.
Better Woolie.
Yeah, Better Woolie himself, now debuting, I mean, every league, soft ground wrestling to New Japan over there, and now AEW. Incredible, doing good things, Brendan Williams.
He's doing it. So. Like, he is doing absolutely fucking incredible. But it was great. It was a really, really fun trip. And then Foxcade came back to Ireland with me. And we have been having a blast. It's been so much fun. I'm trying to find a way for Foxcade not to hear this.
As he edits his...
But he's editing it, so that's
Hey, Foxcade, if you can just mute the video right now and then keep editing, but like just turn the volume down, and we'll give you a little thumbs up when it's okay to turn the volume back up. Okay.
I've tried that with him before on streams. It doesn't work.
Damn it. Okay.
But it's been really fun. We had one weird fucking encounter though.
Okay.
This encounter, Woolie, starts 14 years ago.
Flashback.
So when me and Michelle were going out first, we listened to a lot of Blink-182. And we, in particular, listened to the self-titled Blink-182 album, which is not their first album. It's like their third or fourth. And it's the one with Feeling This and Down. And
I mean, not only did you set the flashback up with the time frame, you also dropped the music cue that would start playing as we fade back in time. So your hair and your outfits and everything you're wearing at the concert, I'm sure, are just visualized in everyone's brains. Please.
It's interesting you should say at the concert. So Blink-182 have always been like a really important band to me and Michelle. We got married to a piano version of Always, which is like, that's our song, you know? And 14 years ago, we had tickets to go see a Blink-182 concert. And I lost them.
What? How?
Yep. They were in my room. They fucking disappeared. I don't know what happened to them. I found them like 4 years later.
Wow. Were they at the local
And-
FGC event? Because they didn't get to. All right. All right.
A friendship era will
Just a,
you better not.
it just,
you better not,
just
you
a
know?
little
Just a little jab. I get
little
it.
razz
Okay,
and,
a
you know,
little noogie. That's fine. That's
some
fine.
absent-mindedness. Sometimes you lose a thing or two. You know, it's.
Well, like, you know, Woolie, one thing I think I've done an excellent job hiding from you is that I can be a little absent-minded.
Oh.
That fucking noise! Like, a kind of attempt at surprise, but, like, not even fucking... Okay, whatever.
Wow. You know, that's.
But, you know, look, Michelle has been with me for 19 years. We've been together 19 years. She is a woman of incredible strength and patience, you know? Like, she has put up with a lot. One of the only times I have ever seen her genuinely, thoroughly, really disappointed in me is losing those tickets. And I felt awful. And I have felt awful for, like, 14 years. Cut to 2 nights ago.
Oh, shit.
Blink 182 are playing in Dublin.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
I have just left training with Fox, which we'll get to that story. And me and Fox decide we're going to walk down the canal for a little bit. It's 2 hours till the concert. I'm 10 minutes from my home. What could possibly go wrong? In front of us, there's this kid fishing, and he's maybe 11 years old, I'd say. He whips back his fishing rod right as a man is cycling behind him.
Oh.
The hook flashes in front of the man's face. The man swerves and takes one of the gnarliest fucking bike spills I have ever seen.
Oh, shit.
Imagine if the Canada slide kept going.
God, you got to be careful when you're doing that.
Yeah,
man. Awareness of
yeah.
your
And like
surroundings.
the kid was young enough to he just didn't fucking know. But someone should have taught him, you know. And like this old dude is about 60 years old. He is. He told me that. And it's bad enough that me and Foxcade immediately, whatever we're talking about, we cut the conversation and we run up to him and we're like, "Are you okay?" And the guy is completely stunned, and he's fucked up, Woolie. Like his knee mashed into the concrete, his head smacked off a wall. So like he doesn't know really what's going on.
Fuck.
And I'm looking at his leg and I'm like, this leg is fucked. And so after a while, we pick him up and we like put him on the wall next to us, and I'm saying to him, mate, like you need to go to the hospital. Like that was not good. But he keeps saying, no, I'm fine. And so eventually he's like, lads, would you mind just standing me up so I can try and straighten the leg? And we're like,
you're
okay.
Oh man.
And so we pick him up, Woolie, and his lower leg stays like stationary. And so this is his knee joint, and it just goes like this.
Yeah, no, you're not supposed to. That's why they tell you not to.
And we see that, and we're both like, if you saw what we just saw, you would call an ambulance.
Yeah.
And so eventually, I convince him to call an ambulance, and I call an ambulance. And so the way we have to do it is we're down off the road, down by a canal. No cars can get to where we are. He's too fucked up for us to carry him to the road. And so what we have to do is I send Foxcade down to the Lewis stop, and he's going to hail down the ambulance, and he's going to bring the hospital workers over to where we are. And so Foxcade does that, like very, very, very generously. And I say I'll stay with the man. And so I stay with him, and I'm a bit worried about him passing out again. I'm a bit worried about him hitting his head a second time. I just, like, you know yourself, you can't leave someone alone when they smack their head that badly. And I'm trying to keep him talking, and I'm trying to keep him like kind of keep him conscious and all that kind of stuff. And he still, sometimes he tries to get up to walk around because like he's just fucking out of it, you know. And I literally have to be like, no. And like I you know,
if he's trying,
I don't have to wrestle the guy.
If he's trying to walk it off, you know, he's the type that's like, I'm fine, and it's like you're super.
He was,
fine.
and I think the more the shock wore off and the more the pain kicked in, he realized how fucked up he was. And so I'm like, okay, this is what it is. Then I look at my phone. We got 1 hour and 40 till the concert. How long can an ambulance take, right? 20 minutes? 25 minutes?
I mean, in a major metropolitan area, hopefully not.
For a potentially non-lethal injury? Woolie, I'm there. It's an hour later.
Oh my god.
The concert starts in 35 minutes.
Oh, shit. Okay.
And dude, I cannot tell you the cosmic horror I felt phoning Michelle and letting her know that I was going to be the reason she was missing a second.
Oh my god, man. Yeah.
I felt so fucking bad.
So when you started this, I thought you were going to say the kid went back and then the hook grabbed the 2 tickets you were holding in your hand as you were excitedly talking to Foxcade about how much you can't wait to go see Blink-182 tonight. And whoop! I thought that's where this was going for a second.
I mean, that might have been simpler.
Oh, fuck.
But,
okay.
So eventually the ambulance like just doesn't fucking come. And at one point, the most horrible part, it's like I eventually phone them again and I'd be like, just want to check, is this ambulance coming? Like, this man's in a lot of pain and like, you know, I'm worried about him, and also I got these fucking concerts like, you know. And so they're like, ambulance is en route, be there soon. And then 30 minutes later, nothing. And I phone them again and I get the most crushing sentence ever. Yeah, you're in the queue.
Yeah, okay. Now, is Dublin the kind of place where you can, like, kind of look for the nearest, like officer or, like, somebody around and just be like, okay, like, you know how to treat and handle the situation?
Potentially, but this is, like, a kind of suburban area.
Okay.
Like, kind of... And it's off the main road. It's a really awkward location.
Okay.
So eventually, like, he's too fucked up to be waiting for the ambulance. So he calls a friend to come pick him up. And so eventually the friend comes pick us up, and also Brian meets us there. So it's me, Foxcade, and Brian. And so once they're there, it's like 10 minutes till the concert starts. And the guy, and I'm like, I'm still never gonna make it. And then the guy's like, could I ask you a favor? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, could you cycle my bike home for me? And I'm like, yes, I could. And that, Woolie, is how I got my new bike.
Is this meant to be the Paragon Renegade choice you were talking about earlier?
So, no, I actually say to him, I think you'll be in hospital for a couple of days, so I should probably drop your bike back over in, like, a few days. And he's like, that's a good idea. He was like, thanks, I really appreciate it. And I was like, yeah, no problem. I hop on that bike. I get it home as fast as I can. I burst through the front door. I point to Michelle, and I'm like, we're going to the concert! And we fucking make it.
You made it. Using the damaged bike with just scraping the blood and skin off of it, you were able to get there in time. Okay, wait, hold on. Wasn't Foxcade with you?
He was, but it was a 2-person job to hail down an ambulance because one person had to wait with the guy, and the other had to be at the Lewis stop to actually hail the ambulance because there was no way of telling them specifically where we are.
Okay. So, safe point to disband the party.
Yeah,
and make your way out.
And then his friend, and then I'm told not long after I left, his friends showed up. They got him in a van, and they were able to drive him to the hospital. And I phoned him yesterday to make sure he's okay, but also to let him know that like that's my bike now, and life is really hard like that sometimes.
Sometimes you get fish hooked. Yeah. Okay. I was like, was Foxcade sitting on the back of the bike? Did he sit on the front? Did you do doubles?
Oh no. Foxcade stayed with the guy.
Okay. All right. That makes more sense. Well, hey. That is, one good karmic turn deserves another, I suppose. So, that is your good deed for the week. Absolutely. You did the right thing there. And
it was a good deed. I can't help feel that looking at my watch every 2 minutes and being like, sure hope that ambulance gets here soon. Maybe detracted from some of the, morally virtuous points I might have got for that one. But, holy shit, it was...
Yeah, again, understandable, 14 years in the making, right? So...
Yeah.
No, that instinct to... with when people are like, oh, I'm fine and stuff, and there might not be, and then to stand up as well is that's such a hard one, because I just, I remember when, an old lady that lived in the building I lived in years ago, just tripped on a stair and fell over, and immediately you're like, oh, and you run over and you're trying to help, and the first instinct they have is to get back up and to be like, oh no, and it's you're super not okay, and it was immediately clear, no, don't, and it was, and the idea of staying on the ground is no, but there's I'm like, I can't, I'm not gonna tell, I can't, you do what you kind of want to do, but I really, really think you should not do that, because you don't know how bad that was, and you need to wait for someone to check it out. And
you are echoing exact words I said.
And you never want a situation where you picking them up makes it worse, So, geez, that is brutal. And was Fishing Kid anywhere around during any of this?
So Fishing Kid continued to fish for a good 20 minutes after the fall.
Wow. Hope you've caught something nice. That's cool.
Any more old men in there, kid?
Jesus Christ.
But then afterwards he came over, and I could just tell he was fucking shook up, and I think he just didn't know what to do. I think he wasn't old enough to really process the situation.
Okay, under 10 or so.
And he was just like, I'm definitely not more than 11.
Okay.
Could have been 9 or 10.
Okay.
And he was just like, I'm really sorry. I'm really, really sorry. I'm really, really... he just kept saying it.
Yeah.
And, I kind of had to say to him, oh, no, lad, it's all right. Shit happens.
Okay.
Just, be more careful in the future. But, look, it's okay. He's all right. We'll get him an ambulance.
Okay.
And,
all right.
I agree with you. I felt bad for the kid.
Yeah, okay. Continued fishing out of panic and uncertainty makes more sense than, whatever. Not my problem. That's crazy. So, yeah. All right. Wow.
But the trip's been super, super fun. Me and Fox went out today, and I treated him to Cookie Boy, which is my favorite cookie spot in Dublin. And we also, I don't know if you saw, Woolie, but we raised $35,000 in the charity stream, which was, really shout outs to everyone who donated. That was fucking awesome. Shout outs to you, sir, for a very spicy segment you provided for the charity stream.
The lost episode, they're calling it.
The lost episode, yeah. Unfortunately, I never thought we'd hit 35,000, and the goal for 35,000 was that I would go see the Garfield movie in full Garfield gear, and we did see that, and we did hit that, and that is what me and Foxcade did today.
Okay, it is an eventful series of days. I see.
It has been. Full video for that coming.
Okay.
There was one bit where a woman came up to me and she was like, "Why do you look so sad?" But I think the highlight of the trip for me was I got to bring Foxcade to training. I booked me and him in for a private class in Kyle Moore, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, with my old trainer Gabrielle, who is Gabrielle is just the sweetest, kindest human on the earth. He is so lovely. He will also rip the fucking arm off.
And that's why, yes, the more good things you have to say about the person beforehand, the more dangerous they're going to be when we get after the comma.
Yeah, he is able to be that nice because he feels no need to show any dominance at all. But it was really cool because, we got to do a full training session, just me and Fox and Gabrielle. And then we got to have like a little roll at the end as well. We went for 5 minutes, which was fun.
Yeah, was it? It was fun? Did you have a good time? Did everyone have a good time?
I had a good time. No, like, in fairness to Fox, like, look, I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 5 years. That's a tough thing to compete against, but Fox did well. And like, Fox is like a big dude and he's very strong. But the thing I think I was like most impressed with him by is like, you could you know Fox boxes, and you could tell he has sparring experience because there's positions. I have a way of fighting guys exactly like Fox, like big strong dudes, where I will just get them inside control and I will hold them there and just let them tucker themselves out. And once they do, it's snap, nap, or tap, Fox stayed in control the entire time. Like, he was never panicking. He was never freaking out and, like, trying a bunch of, like, really, desperate movements. Like, his control was very good. I'm not going to go into more detail than that. Okay. Look, those are Fox's stories if he chooses to tell them.
All right.
But I was really impressed with the dude. I thought he did exceptionally well, and like, it was so nice to just like good hard roll, big hug afterwards. It was just like it was good.
Yes, totally not the language you'd use to describe a child who did their best effort and who you're proud of as they cross the stage at elementary school. Yeah, okay.
Well, I think Fox makes fun of me for saying this stuff, but like, I genuinely feel when you fight someone, when you roll with them, you see sides of them that like no one around them sees. Right. Right. And it was just interesting to experience Fox that way, and it was cool.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So your turn next, buddy.
Well, I guess I just I think that as far as that concert goes, I can't think of a thing more Blink-182 than sweating past this whole adventure and pulling up to the concert on a bike somehow at the last possible second, jumping off and running into the crowd and getting right there in time for the chorus. Fell in love with the girl at the rock show. I feel like that would be perfect. So yeah.
And like, actually being at the concert and Blink-182 playing Always, that's like a top 10 moment for me and Michelle. I think that was like, it was that good. But it's been great. Oh, the flip side of it is like, I rolled with Gabrielle. Me and Fox both rolled with Gabrielle. Like, we took turns, and man, dude, it was just like, it's not that he whooped my ass, it's that he played. He was just having fun. I was like, fuck, man, this guy is so good.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a ton on my side. I mean, that was quite a jam-packed week for me. It was just kind of fun to so Command Grab James, as I've mentioned, from the BJJ episode, where I got to experience a little bit of how to roll and how to get started on that.
Command Grab James sounds fucking awesome, but whenever you say him, I go, this dude is going to kick my fucking ass at some point.
And there's no teching the command grab. You don't be there is the answer. If you're standing there when it's activated. I think
as long as I'm in Ireland, I have an advantage.
Okay, the reach can't.
And he's in Canada. that's the only way he's not tapping me out.
God, running 1+2 break from across the ocean.
What is someone holding back? What's happening?
But no, it was just cool. We met up and we played some PETANQUE, which is a game that you might recognize as the game that Gaston is playing in Disco Elysium. The old man on the couch, on the chair. They're tossing.
Oh
the little silver balls, you know, and it's mentioned in Disco, but it's a game that's like more or less from France and Quebec only, and it's another game of precision, old man perfect form toss, you know, and what you kind of do is you grab a small ball, you throw it inside. Like there's always been these courts in the middle of our parks here in Quebec, and they're just kind of like these boxes. They look almost like a sandbox where kids would play, but it's just got gravel instead. And I never knew what they were for. I completely ignored them my entire life. Well, it turns out they have been pétanque fields, and at any one of them, you walk in, you take a small ball, and you throw it about 6 feet away from you, if possible, anywhere 6 to 10 feet. And then you take these steel balls that look actually like steel ball run style, spheres, and you toss them and try to get them as close to the original ball as possible. And that's the game, you know? And again, it's played by old men. And
that sounds like boules.
So it's very similar to bocce ball, right? That's another game. And then, of course, we have curling here in Canada at full size. And at a smaller scale, if you go to like a VFW in America, you might play shuffleboard, right? Where it's like a little mini.
Which I always thought looked like fun as hell.
Yeah, shuffleboard's really fun. I got to experience that at ComboCon. But pétanque is like, you know, and as well as since I've been getting into crokinole, which is like the kind of the very small, like you finger based like precision game. This is like on a field, and so you can play with a team, and it's a really sick game because like you have to roll as close as possible to that original ball, and at certain points when it gets real is when you got to bust out the measuring tape and like hold it down to check to the millimeter which ball is further apart between the two as to see who's closer. But then there's these strategic plays where we're playing with teams alternating, you know, and like if one person is really good at like getting the ball close, another person can be like a sniper that can hit the opponent's ball away, or right, and like knock them out of play. Or you can hit the target ball, which is essentially like the hole, into another location and move the entire point field with that hit. So imagine imagine playing pool, right? Except instead of targeting the cue ball to hit your 8-ball corner pocket, you hit the corner pocket and move its position and change the points on the field.
That is some video game logic.
It's really interesting. It's super cool.
Yep.
So you could have a bunch of bad plays where you're like, the target ball is here, and I missed, and I have all my stuff over here. My team is all on this side. They're really close. And then on my turn, I hit the target ball closer to where all of mine are. And so,
oh, man. I can see the Shonen Sports anime moment.
Yes!
Oh. You thought I was missing?
Exactly, right? You get the perfect little curve and roll it, and it hits and taps it ever so gently, and now all the points next to you are worth everything, and you dominate in one fell swoop, you know?
Yeah.
And so with that, I'm really coming to appreciate these like kind of games of like just rote mechanical precision, you know, like darts and pool and physics and stuff like that. I'm enjoying like this kind of thing. And I love how of the fields that were in the area, like we went to like a small one initially and we're like, this is kind of more so for bocce ball. So there's a better one down this to the park by this way. And the 3 fields available, there's like the park one we played on, there's a smaller one, and then the other one is in front of the old folks home. But it's like, if you want to go fight some killers, right? Some people who are like, I've been doing this all day for like the last 30 years. You go hang out at the court in front of the old folks home and you take them on there, you know? Like it's this this whole new activity unlocked, and now on the map, every time I see one of these little quartz, little boxes. I'm like, I know what that is now, you know, and maybe might get in there. I've been getting into kiting. I've been getting into all these other little things. So
I was saying, I feel like a new skill tree has unlocked for you.
Yeah, no, like little dots have popped up on the map. Again, in the anime where you're talking about all the strategy, suddenly these parts of town that things you used to walk by are actually these skilled underground encounters, you know? So shout outs to PETANQUE. Spelled with a Q.
What a fun name. Huh.
Spelled with a Q. PETANQUE. Yeah.
Do you mind if I clear up one little thing that's kind of been surrounding the podcast, Woolie?
Sure.
I've been posting some photos with Foxcade. Foxcade is a gentle giant. He's quite a tall man, quite a wide fellow also, and I look very small next to him. And it's led to... Don't make that fucking face, Woolie. Do not make that fucking face, okay? Mm-hmm. It's led to all kinds of questions about my height, and so I'd just like to address that now. Myself and Woolie are the same height. So if you're wondering how tall I am, I'm exactly as tall.
As you can see, because the space between...
Yeah, if you look here,
look from the space between the camera and the frame, then that's it, right? That's it.
Yeah, that's it. So I just wanted to clear that up. Me and Woolie are the same height. We're both 5'7". So yeah.
Yep. Good. So yeah, everyone just stay in line, and that's cool. All the more impressive that when you have to take on somebody and roll with someone that has a different height. It's not unlike an Attack on Titan matchup. So hey,
look,
go for the nape of the neck.
When you're my height and you're doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you get real fucking used to fighting people who are much bigger than you.
Okay. Well,
and I also want to do one final Kathy update.
The Dokapon. Yeah.
Oh, Woolie.
Yeah.
Oh, Woolie.
Yeah. Yeah. So when last we left off, you were continuing this journey through a world of your own making.
Look, I am choosing. I nearly got a little hot there.
Hey,
nearly got a little hot there.
Hey.
No, we're not doing that.
Hey.
We're not doing that.
Yeah.
For the sake of the podcasts, because I think this game is obviously very important to you, and so considering you recommended it to me, I think it would be rude of me not to see this particular game to its conclusion.
Okay.
Which is what I have been doing.
Okay.
Is that all?
No.
That all?
I thank you for no. That's a respectful way to take it. Yeah, I
of course. Yeah, nothing but respect, obviously. And I had thrown down the gauntlet that if I don't defeat Kathy, I will play all of Shenmue 3 on stream. I'm going to save you some details here, Woolie.
I like. Are you just in my absence creating Versus Wolves episodes for yourself?
Okay. I'm not going to get annoyed at that statement because I understand that you're saying it with love.
Well, the thought is that the stakes are high.
Much as it might not sound like it.
The stakes are high, therefore you will activate and back against the wall.
This was an act of self-preservation. It's simple. I don't know why people have trouble understanding it. Okay. So, cut to the gates of hell. In the final section of Dokapon, you need a pass to the underworld, which you can only get by sacrificing a quarter of your villages. Massive loss.
Yeah. At this point, the concept of your value has evolved considerably, I imagine.
Yes. Yeah. I can't remember the specific series of events, but basically, Kathy stole my pass. Leading to one final showdown between me and Kathy outside the gates of hell.
Before the entrance.
The person who wins is going into hell and is going to fight the final boss. But there's another player in this. There's Gabrielle. And Gabrielle has basically been Kathy's other rivalry the whole time. To the point that on my among the final gamer community, they have become the toxic lovers.
Oh,
the toxic Yuri is what people call them.
Okay, so
let me just pull up some fan art here.
So we just don't talk about Steve anymore.
Steve's a fucking loser. No one gives a shit.
Okay.
So there's a lot of this. There's a lot of this.
Wow. Oh wow. Okay.
A lot of this.
Oh shit. Yeah.
The fan artists have gone all in.
Oh my god.
Kathy and Gabrielle. Yeah, it is insane.
What a
It
pair.
is so crazy how far people have gotten. But Gabrielle will nearly always go for Kathy. She will attack her every single time. And me and Kathy are having the most desperate back and forth duel. We both have heal. So we're both healing up and we're fighting, we're beating each other down. And it gets to a point, and I fucking have her, Woolie. I have her dead to rights. This is over. Welcome to Doka John Kingdom. What's that in the sky? It seems to be a meteorite.
On the
and
field.
It's coming right for me on the field.
On the field. No.
Gabrielle, for the first time in forever, her love for Kathy shines through, and she fucking takes me out.
Oh. In between turns.
Yeah. And it is the most devastating thing to possibly happen. And like, here's the kind of fan art this moment spawns.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my god. And field spells are like a completely different thing from the spells in battle too. Like defense for that is a whole other game.
Complete other game. And it absolutely Okay, Woolie, I want you to do something. Could you go to the channel regular Eyepatch Wolf for a second?
Mm-hmm.
And look for the thumbnail. Look at the thumbnail of the video called "Dokapon Destroys My Soul and Dreams."
Yeah. Yes.
That's just a moment that I got up and I literally huddled in the corner. It was devastating. So there was one, and do you know who Gabrielle was as well? Lose 10 pounds.
Oh, okay.
And everyone was like, "This is revenge." So
how about 10
cut to the final? cut to the final stream. This is the final Dokapon. I have to beat the final boss. Kathy is not going into hell. She is like collecting villages. So she's going the opposite way. She wants to like widen the gap between her and everyone else. So much so that it doesn't matter who beats the final boss. So I have to get down to hell. I do it. I sacrifice another quarter of my villages. And who's waiting for me? Gabrielle.
Wow.
So it's me and Gabrielle in one final showdown. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, you're about to fucking pay. Gabrielle has never beaten me once in the 23-hour playthrough. Gabrielle has never beaten me once.
It's always been Kathy.
I want you to imagine the horror, Wooly, when I see the words strike.
So, have you? That's the question. Have you been playing it nice and loose and just taking it easy with some pokey attacking and defending? Have you had to factor in a counter in anywhere in your journey so far?
I think at some point I countered something once.
Okay.
But for the most part, I've been playing it safe.
Okay.
And so I get obliterated.
Yeah.
I go back down into the cave. I sacrifice another quarter of my village. I've lost 3/4 of my villagers, Wooly. And you know what happens? I fight an elder dragon, and it shatters my weapon.
Yeah. Of course it does.
Game over. And I am beyond devastated. Then the Bahamut begins to call.
Oh, wait, but for that to happen, you have to fall below Steve. Okay, I see. A couple of footnotes that we skip past on the way here. Okay, I understood. Yep, got it.
So cut to Gabrielle is fighting the final boss. I am wandering around with the Bahamut above my head, and I am slamming town warps to try and get as close as I can to the contract area. And I'm like, it's over. I can't do it. And then I land on Weber.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're unfamiliar, Weber gives an item that teleports you to the contract area, letting you activate the Darkling.
Yes.
So all I need is to gather enough Darkling points and perform a come to me on everybody. That will bring everyone to me.
No matter where
I
they
will
are.
massacre them all, and I am going to try and get a global panic out of it as well. Reset the entire game, go beat the boss, and if you beat the boss, you get every village.
But the sacrifice to becoming a Darkling means already
Is lose
forsake everything that you've had.
So, Wooly, this is my final gambit. This is literally all or nothing. I am going to win Dokapon, or I am going to crash out with 0.
Oh my god. Wow. Okay. Huh, Kathy. What a journey.
It doesn't go great, Wolves.
I mean, Darkling is a route, and when you're on the other side of it, all you feel is the terror of it coming behind you.
Yep.
But when you're there, it is still a struggle.
Yeah, there is a struggle to being the Darkling, but I activate it, and I get within one turn of activating Come to Me. Gabrielle beats the final boss.
Oh, wow.
Wooly.
Wow.
I come fourth with 0 gold.
Oh my god. And Kathy didn't even win.
Dude, Kathy smoked everybody. She was so far in the lead, the fact that she didn't beat the final boss meant that she still won.
That, okay. Just on numbers.
Yeah.
Just on the numbers. Okay. Like, because, I mean, there's a huge benefit, obviously, to taking out the final boss, but your actual value, you know, your net worth is a figure that is what matters the most. Man, that's crazy.
So there's 2 things I want to announce here, okay?
Yeah.
The first off is that we are working on a best of Dokapon stream. We're going to compress the entire thing down into a down into a best of video.
Nice.
I would love suggestions from the people who have been watching it in our audience. What are your favorite Dokujan moments? But 2, if people that like, we have gotten so much fucking fan art for this thing. It's been incredible. It's genuinely made me so happy. Like fan art is one of my favorite things about this job, and we have gotten so much of it. If people feel like sending their fan art in, I would love to splice people's fan art of their favorite moments into the best of. And if people want to send that in, you can send that into regular eyepatchwolf@gmail.com. It's regular eyepatchwolf@gmail.com if you have fan art. And
wow.
So, but there's one more caveat. I have a saved game from 5 turns from the end. So here's my challenge, okay? Shenmue 3 is a stupid fucking broken game, and I don't like it. And it plays like shit, and it's way harder than it needs to be. I get 3 tries, okay? 3 tries. I'm gonna rewind the clock. Woolie, no, I can do it. Woolie, I can do it. I can do it. Okay, hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me.
No one.
Hear me out.
Nothing. Not a single goddamn soul. Okay, but what about Shenmue 3 as the stakes, though? John.
But just hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. Okay. I get 3 tries. If I can come first, if I can pull off the Darkling plan.
The copium.
No, Woolie, this is not copium. This is regular. It's regular air. It's because this is what it's like when you're the final gamer. This is what there is no oxygen in the atmosphere of the final gamer. It's all copium. That's a good thing, right? I've never quite understood what that means, but yes, okay. But okay, Woolie, hear me out. If I can do it,
yeah, that's oxygen. Yeah, you're breathing air. Yeah, for sure, man.
If I can do it, then I get to play Shenmue 3 on easy.
Oh.
If I fail, Shenmue 3 on hard.
You don't have to keep aiming for more.
I can do it!
The way down, bro.
I can do it!
Every branch on the way down. Like, there's like, oh, almost missed one. Let me just...
Let me get back up there.
Holy shit. Oh. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. All right. Okay. This...
And, Woolie, I just wanted to say that in a darker era of this podcast, I might have, blamed you for what's happening. And I have seen in the Versus Wolves community that a lot of people agree with that sentiment. There's been, I don't even want to say who they are, but there's been an awful lot of people who have been saying that this is all Woolie's fault. And I don't have any comments on that either way. But
I do feel that, hey, in this new arc that we are setting
I think a previous version of me might have. But this new version of us, no way, buddy. And I just want to say in the comments right now, I don't want anyone blaming Woolie for this. Okay?
I'm happy that a short and sweet preview of an experience led to such a connection that has led to such content that has led to such incredible, like you said, fan art and a journey and highs and lows and overall just wow. Like I never saw all of this coming, I really thought we'd be in and out, but it is clearly delivered so much, and those highs and those lows and everything. It's it is my pleasure. It's my pleasure to provide this much content.
And I think in this particular situation, I'll be the bigger person and accepts what you just said.
Thank you. I do mean it.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think as well, you deserve absolute praise for taking lemons and making lemonade.
Yeah, yeah. I got a very negative suggestion.
No, you got it was, hey, take a bite out of this lemon. Don't finish the lemon, just take a bite. And then you took, just take, and it's like, hey, isn't that kind of tangy?
Yeah, but like, yeah, sure. But I think considering Woolie, I think like we know each other quite well. I would say, we've we've been through some stuff, myself and yourself,
and we've come out the other side.
Some would argue
and we've come out the other side.
And we've come out the other side. Yeah, totally. And some would say that when you handed me the lemon, you probably knew exactly what was going to happen because
I tasted.
Yeah,
I tasted lemon too.
What I am,
and I was like, oh, that's, yeah, okay, well,
yeah, okay.
It really just slotted right into that perfect little that little John-shaped hole. This game just fit right in there.
Hey, look, here's what I'll say, right? Every year I re-rank my top 100 games of all time in the Final Gamer Awards. Dokupon's on the docket.
Oh, let's go.
Now, it might not get in there. I believe number 104 right now, which is the ranked table, is Signalis. So, do I like Dokapon better than the Signalis? What a fucking insane question with no possible way to answer it at all, but I will.
Okay.
I am going to be doing the Dokapon You Cannot Redo stream 1 week after this episode goes up.
Not in brackets.
So, yeah. Hello, everyone. It's me, John, the fan favorite on Versus Wolves. I made a mistake when I said that. I'm actually going to be away that Friday, so the Dokapon You Cannot Redo stream will be taking place on the 12th. That's the Thursday before. I'm going to double check that now because I'm very dyslexic. Yes. You can check my Twitch schedule for the precise time. Should be around 12 p.m. ET. Okay, that's it. Back to the episode. Goodbye.
I think that we can actually quantify how much joy Dokapon brought you. Like, we could literally measure it by stream minutes, and that should speak volumes of where it goes on your list at the end of the day. But to think it even enters the realm of that list at all, again, I'm pleased as punch. That makes me feel great. I'm really warm. I feel great about that. That's nice. I'm glad that a recommendation, which is what this show is about, has taken hold and the roots have settled in. That's all we really want.
No matter what the spirit of the original recommendation was or how maliciously it was presented, I'm glad that I'm glad that I was able to turn it into something good.
Because what we want as friends is to recommend things that we can share with each other and then actually see if they land.
That's what it's all about, buddy. Yeah, totally.
So, with that being said, how about we get into it?
Well, we could do, but first, what say we take a little Patreon question?
That's a good idea.
You know what? We get a lot of good questions over at the Patreon. Real lovely little community over there, and I just want to throw a little spice in on the podcast. And I really, really liked this one, Woolie. This one is from Citizen Shane. How do you manage time you want to put into a hobby or skill you're trying to improve on with the rest of your schedule?
That is a day-to-day struggle. It is super real.
Absolutely.
And the problem I've realized some time ago was that the things that I tend to pour myself into are things that demand infinite time. The things that I want to get better at are things that are like, you can just keep going. There's always more. Mm-hmm. And there's always an encouraging group of people that are like, hey, what's up? You should do this more often. And so, like, the idea of like, hey, let's get through an LP for a really long-running franchise like Yakuza, and it's going to have over 100 episodes because there's a billion side quests that are all really fun and like absolutely worth doing. And then there's the main quest and all the other stuff in between. And then there's, hey, I want to get better. I want to play these fighting games I'm into. Oh, there's a beta for like 2XKO now, or playing Street Fighter 6. That's gonna the amount of you can put infinite time into that. You know, there's no limit. It's rough. And then to just kind of be like, oh, in the meantime, I'm gonna start playing this game PETANQUE, or I'm gonna, you know, like whatever these little like kind of extra things are. Even boxing, or just getting, you know, more active again and stuff. It's been a huge struggle. I think part of what I managed to do some time ago was integrate some of my recording time into those hobbies. So having a Get Into Fighting Games show where I play fighting games regularly is a way of me like staying kind of hot, you know, keep touching the game while being able to use it while working that into like the stream recording time as well and stuff.
Do you know, that's a struggle I particularly feel with fighting games. I know that there is a level of fighting games I am not reaching, and I would love to, but it's so difficult to carve out that much time. And like, to me, it's like I'm working or I'm not working.
Yeah.
Right. And what that means is if I'm not working, I am doing it for pure enjoyment. And I will play fighting games out of pure enjoyment. I might not lab out of pure enjoyment.
Right.
You know? And it's hard because it's like, well, look, video essays are my fighting games. They're the things I'm going to put my all into. And then you have some motherfucker like FD Signifier who puts out some of the fucking best video essays on the planet and also ranks 256 out of 3,000 at Evo.
Incredible.
That's insane. I want to get him on stream basically to shout at him and be like, you don't get to be both.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because I remember when I specifically made the choice to be like, I have to go to weeklies less and play ranked and practice less so that I can record more. Like, it was a decision, you know? And there was a time where people, I remember, like, you know, some folks in the audiences would be like, oh, hey, like, you know, hope you do like really well, and I think like hope you can make like top 16 or, you know what I mean, stuff like that. And I kind of had to have a moment to be like, you know, the more you see me here with you, the less I'm training to be good at these games off camera, which means you can't doing both is rough. And especially if it's like a regular practice thing of like, hey, I'm streaming multiple times per week or so, like, you see me here, therefore I'm not putting the time in. And if I want to get good enough to get those placements and go as far as possible, I have to not stream and show up at weeklies twice a week and then be online grinding it out on tournaments every week on stuff like that as well. Because the people who are from here that are like that good are spending most of their days after work and stuff getting into brackets and just doing long sets with people online and stuff. So I know where I'm at with that, you know?
Yeah. That's been a tough pill for me to swallow in a few areas, but one of the biggest ones is jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
There is a type of fighter, and like they're cage fighters. They're people who are properly practicing in MMA. And so what'll happen sometimes is they will join for a year and they will train like 5 times a week. It's like sometimes more. Yeah. And by the end of that year, you can feel them surpass you. And it sucks. Like it's hard because it's like, man, like, I've trained all this time, and this person who's doing it for a year is beating me. But it's also like I have to remind myself that, like, yeah, but like, look at what you could do against someone who is untrained.
Yeah.
You know, like, so I have learned stuff, but those moments can be frustrating. But jiu-jitsu is their versus wolves. Jiu-jitsu is their streams. Jiu-jitsu is their video essays.
Yes.
They are putting all their points into it. There's nothing I can do because I'm never going to be that person.
That's it, right? You know? It's not just when you start, but it's how much you crank that gas pedal. And if they're going full speed and this is what they're focusing on, there's always a lot of other things they're not able to do with their time, but this is what they've chosen, you know? And I think that like it's important to kind of have that realization too, where there's a lot of moments where I feel like I'm like, oh, I don't know enough about this series or that series, or, you know, when I'll be in the position to like have to answer questions about something, and like if I'm, you know, I'm playing through a Souls game with like Reggie or so, and it's like, oh, like I should be the one that like has the reference point, and it's like, yes, but like for everyone out there that knows a ton about a thing that they're aware that you're making a mistake about, there's a million blind spots they have about other things that they don't. Right?
Yeah.
So we're all there's a limited amount of space, and the hard drive can get only so full before you got to start removing other things. And so I think I have a priority list at times where I'll be like, okay, this is not gone forever, but for the moment, I'm going to put this aside because I just want to prioritize these things. And if I can cycle those out in a healthy manner, I think I can enjoy my time.
Yeah. And staying healthy is a very difficult part of it. Like, I was talking to you before the stream, Woolie, like, I am currently going through a move, and going through a move while trying to manage streams, script writing, podcasts, another merch lineup. It has been, I wake up in the morning and I am getting hit by bolts of lightning all day until it's time to go to bed, and then I can't sleep because I'm like, it's fucking, like, I have lost weight, it fucking sucks, I'm stressed all the time, it's finite, it ends next week when I actually move, but it's difficult. But to bring this question, I guess, back to like what Shane's asking, there's two things that I would say. One, we do the things we really want to do. And I think it's worth, especially like if someone's kind of younger, it's worth considering what's the shit that's really important to you. What is the shit that you will wish you had done for 15 minutes every day in 5 years? Like, because at that point, you will have developed a complete skill set. What do you want that to be? And you should always give yourself, like, stupid fucking brain off time. You should always rest. You should always play. You should always, like, you should have enough time to do the things that make you happy. But some of the things that make you happy is going to be stuff that you want to improve on, stuff that you want to get good at. This is the second one. Never let the unimportant things get in the way of the important things. Like, you should always be fighting to make the time for the shit you really want to do. Like, when I started out in YouTube, I was getting up at 6 a.m. to make videos. I would then go do my 9 to 5, and I would come home and make videos, and I'd make videos on the weekend. I did that for a year. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't, part of it was because I wanted, I had real doubts about being full-time. I just loved doing it, and I knew I wanted to feed this love. And that's how I think people should be. Like, don't think about what you want to be. Think about the shit you love doing. There's a huge difference there. And I think sometimes when I meet people and they're like, I want to be an illustrator, or I want to be a film director, it's like, well, yeah, like, do you naturally draw every day? Like, is that something you do? And if you struggle to, maybe there's something else that you love more will come more naturally to you.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we also addressed this long form back in some of those first episodes of, like, Woolie Will Figure It Out. But, like, talking about like, setting yourself up for, like, okay, I'm going to be working on this project. And then as time slips away and as you don't make progress in that thing, now guilt starts to kick in. And then the feeling of, like, every time I sit down with my pencil and paper to start sketching, I feel guilty, And, like, that holding on to you for me, for years, I was just like, oh, every single thing I'm doing that isn't progress in this project is actually just, like, time being wasted. And, I shouldn't be doing this. And I'd feel bad about all that. And, like, you don't want to set yourself up for that kind of trap either, Yeah, it's important to do it in a healthy manner, like you said. And I know that literally this question is so Z-targeted, like, straight, because this is the thing I struggle with the most in life, I think, and I'm going to probably continue to struggle with this as someone who's I always want to try more things. I always want to experience more things. Hell, part of this is also why when we talk about things that I really enjoyed, experiences that I've really had a good time with, when I hear people talk about how they've watched their favorite movie countless times or played their favorite game countless times, I don't relate to that. I don't, because I've spent so much time being like, well, I can go play that 30 or 40 hour game again, or I can play a new one that I've always wanted to play that I never got to play, and
there is a side to me, like, when I consume media, there's always a voice in the back of my head being like, are you going to make something out of this? Like, is this going to benefit you? And it's like, I don't always want it to be that, sometimes I just want to play some stupid game.
but I just, for every part of me that's just like yes, I can go back and sort of check something out, something that I enjoyed out again or so. I'm like, I personally know that I enjoy and I kind of cherish the new experience more in like almost every instance. So like, there's just, it's like, yeah, like, it's like, okay, you have time to watch like, 26 episodes of something. What's it going to be? Is it going to be the latest Kamen Rider series, or is it going to be the latest Toku series, or is it going to be the latest Mecha series, or is it going to be the latest slice of life you've been recommended, or the latest Gundam?
Sometimes people will recommend me Tokusatsu, and I look at it and I'm like, this looks awesome. I have so much other shit in my life that I don't know if I'm like, I would like to, but yeah, anyway.
So it is just, it's always going to be a struggle, but I also just know that I'm like, there are things about my favorite media that I will not have able to spout off the cuff, and that's just because like many of my things that I've enjoyed the most I've watched once, Yeah. That's it. Yeah, it's a struggle.
Citizen Shane, thank you for the question. If you, dear listener, would like to also ask us a question, you can head on over to patreon.com/versuswolves podcast.
Yes.
And we got a bunch of tiers there. You'll gain access. You can potentially gain access to the Discord. You will gain access to an extra Versus Wolves podcast a month known as the Intermission Lounge.
Mm-hmm. And we had we every episode of that we take some more questions, we answer some more of what's going on, and talk about some of the stuff going on in the Discord as well. And we also take the opportunity to talk about subjects that either get combo broken or stuff that we just want to talk about that we never otherwise would have a chance to get into.
Yeah, we went, so the last episode we recorded, we went in on Berserk, mm-hmm. and it was a joy. I hate saying it because it sounds like I'm just trying to shill the Patreon. Some of my favorite shit we have ever recorded is the Intermission Lounge.
It's a single dive on a single topic, and it's just going all the way in. The BoJack Horseman episode is like the realest shit I think I've ever recorded. It's realest shit.
That's what's fucking scary about BoJack, though. You can't go in on BoJack without reflecting on your own shit.
You have to. That's the nature of it. Yep.
Yeah, that's why I think that's why I'm like scared to make a video. Anyway, Woolie, we got some recommends to get to.
We do. So again, thanks and to all the support, and check that out if you would. If you think it sounds cool. English is starting to fade away.
Well, we only have about another, I don't know, fucking 2 hours to record, depending on how we usually go. But thanks to everyone who records, it means the world to us, and I love some of the fucking memes that come up on Discord. Yeah. One of my favorite was, the Eric Andre bit where he shoots them.
Yep.
It was John shooting John, turns to camera, why would Woolie do this?
Lives forever. All right. So.
All right.
Next order of business.
Do you get nervous before we do the recommends? I know we both get nervous before recommend or die.
Yeah, before the actual recommends, only if I'm like, oh no, only if I don't feel like I know how it's gonna go. But
and how do you feel this is gonna go?
I think I'm predicting that like the highs are gonna outweigh the lows, but I suspect that in this case, you have revealed yourself to be somewhat of a glutton for punishment. You enjoy.
Woolie, you keep driving this narrative. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know what it's about. I feel like there's maybe some projection happening here.
So I think if the game has a little bit of self-flagellation involved in the process, it might actually, unlock a little something in you. That's my prediction about how these things go.
Well, without acknowledging that comment in any way, Darkest Dungeon 2.
Yes, this is also an interesting time because it's in the middle of getting a lot of updates as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's been quiet for a while, but right around now they announced a new game mode that's going to be coming in a couple months' time. They just dropped 2 new character classes, and mods as of like a couple days ago are now a part of the game.
What are the character classes?
so the original the from the first game you had the God, what is wrong with me? Sword, like the Swordmaster. This is exactly what I was just talking about a second ago. It's Reynold. Reynold is the Crusader and the Duelist are the two classes that
I've unlocked both of them. Yeah.
Yeah, Duelist and Crusader are the two classes that came out with the Binding Blade DLC, is what it was. And Duelist is brand new, but Crusader was the original default sort of like knight guy from part 1 that was not available until now.
Right. Okay. So, it's interesting, because one of the feelings I do have about this game is that it feels incomplete. And we can get specifically into that as we go, but I would say there's parts of it where I feel like a little bit of a rough edge here or there. And I think one of the reasons that stands out so much is because parts of it are also insanely polished. And I think one of the first things that really jumped out at me in that regard is, god damn, the art direction and animation in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the very first thing I did is I picked I think it's Baraton, the big guy with the armor.
The man-at-arms. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you're not familiar, the way this game works is at the start you pick 4 heroes and you arrange them from right to left, and that's how they show up in your battle. And so you want to put long range or support characters in the back and like either tanks or DPS in the front. Is a very general idea of how that works. Mm-hmm. So I thought, oh, this lad looks like a big fucking just tough shell who can just take a bunch of hits. I'll put him up front. And then in my first turn, I attack with him, and watching him like swing the mace and smash it down, and then he drags it across the floor and all these sparks shoot out. Mm-hmm. It was like just critical hit into aesthetics I like.
Yeah, and so the story behind those is especially interesting because it used to just be the sprites from the first game, which had a lot of like there's a lot of start and stop in the right places for maximum impact. But when they switched over to 3D, it was like, oh, how can they do that and still keep it faithful? And they 100% found a way to keep that art style still looking the way you remember it, and it's fully 3D. But when those impact moments hit, it holds on the hit stop, and
it's bam, like I would really say it's a limited style of animation, but it's limited in that they could make it more elaborate, no problem. But the way they're doing it feels so good.
Yeah, I honestly think in terms of like translating 2D in source material into 3D. This is one of the best examples I've ever seen, up there with what ArcSys does with things like Strive and
I would
Dragon
agree.
Ball.
I could not believe how good this game looks when I booted it up. I was like, oh my god. And it was really, really stunning. I did wrestle with it initially. And particularly, you know what really threw me? The cart sections. So when you play this game, Darkest Dungeon is this very grim, dark journey through this kind of very desolate world. I wouldn't say it's like a Dark Souls world. No. It's not like Dark Souls is very been dead for a long time. This is more you are riding through it the night everything is going to shit. Is kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, so the first game is you going to meet the ancestor who is basically like exactly a researcher who's behind like unlocking all these horrors and all these everything is starting to go wrong, and you're trying to find your way into his manor and to the places where he researched to see what you can do about it. And this is the game where it's all gone to shit. The world is lost, and you are riding to survive.
So the first game is maybe like the world isn't destroyed yet.
Yeah, the first game is like hold it back from right now. It's all in this manner. Hold it back now, or we're lost. And the second game is
That is cool.
it's lost. Now just try to survive and hold on.
Wow.
To hope.
Okay.
Following the academic,
and the first game takes place in this village. Like, is that do I have that right? Mm-hmm. Okay, because this second one is more about you and your 4 heroes are in a cart traveling through this world, and that plays out like a roguelite choose your path kind of thing. So do you want to go to the watchtower, or do you want to go to the creature den? Do you want to go to the library, or do you want to go to the hospital? And they all have kind of advantages and disadvantages, and a lot of it is you learning what these different outposts mean and what they're going to mean for your specific route through the game. If all your characters wipe, then you go back to the start. If your characters die, they die, and you can recruit another one at an inn.
Mm-hmm. But the one you're playing with is lost forever. So the cart is an interesting aspect because it's the most different part of this game compared to the original, and it's the part that's the most contentious.
I've seen that online.
Yeah,
all right.
And as someone who plays Darkest Dungeon, I played 1. Just you walk with your party through a dungeon. You show up at the different location, whether it's the cove or the coast, and you just kind of you walk, and then there's traps on the way. There's curio to investigate, but your party's on foot. Here, by making it go through this cart section, there's a bit of a game of like you can swerve the cart left and right to pick up things on the road. But overall, like from beginning till now, it's been the part that like I think most people have not liked, because it's like a lot of people are, when you play Darkest Dungeon, you're kind of playing it for a turn-based game. You're not really looking for a Sonic Emerald mini mission kind of running through the ditches.
I would have to say I kind of agree with it. Like, to me, the design of the combat is so like razor tight. But it actually took me a long time to figure out what I was even meant to be doing, because I was like, oh, so my cart has stamina, and so I must be careful to avoid the obstacles. Okay. But no, you actually want to be hitting the obstacles because you can get little pieces of loot out of them.
The obstacles in the way. Yes. Yeah. So the stamina for the cart is, there's a bit of there's 2 different systems at play there. Where there's obstacles that are just little like bundles on the path. You hit them and you get loot, exactly. But then there are set points on each branch you take that might either get you into a fight, hurt your cart wheels, or hurt the cart armor. And when those get stripped down to 0, then like you're in real trouble, Yeah. And I think like I have trouble melding the cart game here with the actual game itself, because like the way the cart controls, it feels like the implication is that you can avoid things, but you can't really. Like, the most you can really do is bump into those things that give you items, and if you come up to like a rough section of ground that's going to damage your wheel, you can't navigate past it. You're just going to hit it. Yep. You can choose not to go that route, but the actual act of driving the car isn't really very important to the game. And you don't spend a lot of time doing it. Now, the route you choose is very important to the game. Yeah. But mechanically moving the cart around doesn't really matter that much. And the reason why is because originally it did matter more, and that was a worse game for it. Right. So there's a lot of really great stuff to get into, but like if we're going to front load talking about the cart, it's because it's the most discussed part of the game. And essentially the first version of things, the cart had much more play in the outcomes, and it was also like always really rough to control. It would swerve in a really aggressive manner, and you had a hard time kind of dodging or swinging left or right. And you also had to like hold down an acceleration button and things like that.
Wow.
What has happened is over time, by making the cart more of an automatic progression, it has like it streamlined the game to be more about just the path you pick, and like the journey there with the cart is essentially it could be skipped, but it's like it's a little extra bonus, and it's some atmosphere because if you remove it entirely, there's things where on the way characters talk to each other. There's things where you can have healing over time or you can have like damage over time and effects that like need distance to factor in, right?
I think I would probably lean on the side of just getting rid of it, because I think there is a lot of that stuff you could implement it. But it's interesting to hear you say that like it used to be more this like like difficult to control, chaotic kind of thing, because I think that is the philosophy of this game. Like, this game is about you making the best of a bad situation. And it's interesting because like I it was hard not to think about Fear and Hunger,
right?
Because I think these two games share a really similar philosophy, but implement it in a totally different way.
Yes, I agree with that. I think as well, anytime a game is about that at its DNA, there should usually be a choice that is either this chaos will unfold in a tactical manner where your decisions, turn-based as they are what lead to your downfall, or decide that it's going to be based on reactions and timing and speed. And what I often dislike is when a game kind of mixes both in ways that are not too elegant. If you know, and so this game has always been turn-based at the core. And if you're walking in part one into a trap room, it's up. You eventually either disarm the trap if you see it, or you don't and you hit it. But it's not necessarily about like quick time reactions or so. So what I think they ended up doing is, and this is what I mentioned it towards the end of the last time, but for the cart, you can turn on a lot of options, such as just click and then the cart will roll, so you don't have to hold any button down. And then it'll essentially like take you to your next objective. And, you know, the stuff you pick up it's minor. It's not a huge deal, but ultimately it's like you can, if you're trying to optimize, you swerve into all that stuff, but you can have a very normal run while just choosing left, middle, or right on the cart. And then when you get to the next location, that's where your next decision point is, you know? In a Slay the Spire kind of way, where you're just like, there's a map, you're picking your roads, but...
And I think that's kind of the trouble I have with it a little bit. I feel like in a game where decision making is so critical, like you are pumping that noggin the entire time, except for these sections with the cart where you're just kind of floating.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, that's fair. That's absolutely fair, and everyone tends to be on similar consensus on that with the cart. Yeah.
And so I think when I started playing, what threw me is I thought the cart was a much bigger part of the meta than it is.
Okay.
And so then it was the next... So I played about 21 hours of this game, I think. And it was kind of... Every hour I played, I realized that the cart sections were more and more superfluous, and it absolutely makes sense to me that what you're saying, where this used to be a bigger part of the game, that's really interesting. It's an odd one because I would say the game design for the cart stuff, it's not great. It's not really working out. I'm really interested to see what way they take it. Because the game design for the battles themselves is so tight. Like, this is a refined system from a refined system from a refined system. And it is fantastic. It took me a while to get my head around as well. Especially like the kind of 8 versus 8 kind of thing. Yeah. You know, and you're trying to be like, okay, what can this do? What's the thing to do in this scenario? And it's really deep and it's really interesting. And one of the things I found very interesting about it is it's kind of token based in that. So if this game is all about status effects. Like, it is, you are stacking statuses on people are stacking statuses on you. So if someone inflicts blind on your party, then what happens is a little blind token goes on one of your team members, and they have a 50% chance to miss next time they attack, and whether they hit or miss, that blind token will then disappear. So as opposed to like Final Fantasy, where like blind is like a timed thing. Yeah, this is like you get one blind. But then you can also do like a dodge, and you get a dodge token, which means you have 50% chance to dodge, and it's the same thing. And so you are really... The meta I started to understand about this game is I really needed to making those statuses working for me as much as possible. This was not a game about maximum damage output.
Yeah. It certainly can be if you build for it, but managing the best of both situations is what it's going for, because philosophically, right, the main thing that I think we should explain too is that every character has a life bar and a stress bar, and the way that the game works is that like you have to manage stress, otherwise you will basically when the life bar depletes, you're dead, right? You hit you get to your magic, you get to 0, and you don't die right away. You go to death's door, so there's a chance that your next damaging hit will kill you, but the chances can be resisted, and you can build up your ability to resist and hold on, right?
So this is a game mechanic. Sorry, Will, I know you're giving like a
That's okay.
proper explanation, but this is a game mechanic I absolutely love, and I wish I saw it in more stuff. The kind of the Wii punch out. Oh, you ain't dead yet.
Yeah.
It is fantastic, and like in this game, there's once or twice. There was one I was playing as the woman with the armor. I can't remember her name.
The Hellion.
Yeah.
Duelist. Duelist is with the armor. Yeah.
No, it's not the duelist. She has like a club and a book, and she's very support based. The Vestal, that's her. Yeah. And I was on the final limb of a boss fight, and it was her, and she would not die.
Yes.
She would not die.
Yes.
And then her sanity drained, and she got resolute and got all her health back. And I was like, let's go!
It's made for the hype plays, right? So, so to explain the whole status effect thing and the tokens, like you have this ability to like stand strong at the end right when you're at death's door, and when you get hit at death's door, you hear like the bell dong, like for whom the bell tolls. And then when your stress meter hits, it fills up, your character is tested. And then you can roll the dice to see what the outcome will be. And there's a chance that they will either turn out resolute or have a meltdown. And if they have a meltdown, then they lose a ton of life. A lot of the friendship points they've built up with the party will drop massively, and then they'll get like an ailment and a major. They'll become fear. They'll gain fear of the dark, or fearful of everything, or panic stricken, or they might just become like a martyr. Like, I want to die. They go nuts. Or if they're resolute, they actually turn adversity into a virtue, and then they come through it and they inspire the team, and then they're like, no, we can survive this, and they heal up and buff everybody else. But you never know what it's going to be. And that 50-50, right, which is a carryover from the first game, is now working its way into the gameplay in a lot of ways, where you have those tokens. So yes, you're blind, but you also have a higher chance of dodging. So you have a bad token and a good token, and one of those two is going to play out on this next turn, So the blue and the gold are kind of like played off each other in the gameplay design in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And when you see just like the different systems in this game meld together to create like a narrative in these battles, it's a beautiful thing. Like it's a really meticulously, gorgeously designed battle system. And when you start to navigate it in a way, and like especially when you get like a like indelible trinket, and it changes how you play a character. So one of my favorite characters in this is called the Runaway.
Yeah.
Or the Runaway is one of my favorites. I'm talking about the Highwayman.
Okay. Yes. He is my favorite.
Really,
Highwayman.
He became
goated.
He became my upfront damage dealer. And there's a couple of different ways you can play him. There's like, everyone has their class, but then you can assign subclasses to him. And one of my favorite runs is he has this move. I can't remember what it's called. It's called Headshot or something like that.
Point blank shot, perhaps.
Yeah, that's the one. Point blank shot.
It's so good.
And you can only do this move when he is the first person in your row, and it only hits the first person in the other row. And I got this trinket that the way it works is he does 100% more damage.
Yes.
So just doubles his damage output. But every turn, he loses 30%. So my opening move every single time was open it up, point blank shot, fucking like 23 damage or something, just blow away whoever the first person is in line. And from there, he has another move which he rushes across your line and hits like one of the first 3 people in the next row.
Duelist's
and when
advance.
he does that, yeah, and then he gets a dodge and I think an armor as well.
A counter.
Yep. Yes. And so then you're back at the front of the row again, point blank shot, and it's this desperate race to finish the battle before his damage drops too low. And like, oh, it was so satisfying to figure that out. It was just so satisfying. And I know every character probably has shit like that. And I was getting there with them. I got real fond of the Plague Doctor.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And the Plague Doctor has this just menace of a move where they blind and stun the back 2 members of the opposite party, and it just feels so good to hit it.
So like getting to see a hint of that synergy with the teams is so much fun. In particular, what I again, you talk about the Highwayman. I love starting with him in second slot, Duelist's advance to first, get that counter and defense on, then boom, point blank shot and fall back, you know?
Yeah.
And with that, if you the other,
because he's going to be buffed at that point.
Exactly. Right. Now, on top of that, what's really great is the ability to, when you with these characters, every time you do a run, you can go and invest points into them permanently, like roguelike, you know? And something you unlock with each character is their paths. So there's 4 different essential subclass or configurations that you can play them in. And like, he has paths where he can emphasize his gun skills to do more damage. Right.
So you could stick him in the back row if you wanted.
You can. There's a versatility path. There's a path that's about stealing tokens from the enemies, right? Taking their positive tokens for yourself. And so you can kind of choose by using the paths as well. And then furthermore, you like in the first game you'd pick a number of like 4 abilities you'd have. And in this game you have like I think like 12 to pick from total, and you choose 5 of them. So there's so many different configurations and possibilities and little things you can tweak. Yeah. It's fantastic.
This game is one of those games where like mechanically it is so dense. Like you can just completely get lost in the numbers and mechanics of this game. And like, you know, I would get excited. I would unlock a new path and I would be so excited to try it next run. And I'd be so excited to figure, like, well, what can this character do?
Yeah.
And eventually, like, I settled into my kind of characters. So I liked the Plague Doctor.
Yeah.
I liked the one we were just talking about, the armor lady.
The Vestal.
The Vestal. And, like, the Vestal was really... So the Plague Doctor's fun because you can heal, but you can also inflict disease on the enemies. And once you really get going with that, it's like... So say like they have an armor buff. They're going to take 50% less damage next turn. That's when you want to use the Plague Doctor, because the Plague Doctor doesn't do that much damage. It's like 1 to 3 damage initially. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't matter how much damage you do if you inflict plague.
You stack
And
them.
so, okay, before the Highwayman does anything, I want to hit them with the Plague Doctor. I want to take away that shield buff, inflict, and then the Highwayman's free to do all his crazy damage because the shield is now gone because the Plague Doctor. But from the Plague Doctor, they also have Blight, so they're going to take damage every turn. And those effects I learned were really important, especially against bosses who do like 3 moves a turn, and you want to hit them with that flame damage or blight damage every time.
Yes, so that's it. You can stack up blight, you can stack up flame or bleed on the opponents and such. There's a lot of games that I really dislike this habit, but there's a lot of games where status ailments don't affect bosses. They're just...
I hate that so much.
It's such a boring thing to do to your game design to say, hey, we can allow you to poison everything, or we can allow you to bleed things, but not against bosses. Just hit the bosses. Yeah. They're strong. They're hard.
Yeah, that's
you know?
it's
why
I really hate games where they disable mechanics for boss fights.
It sucks, man. It's like if you want build versatility, then allow the game to embrace these things. And this game absolutely does that. In fact, some bosses will have weaknesses to certain blights, you know? But
there's some game I played in the past year where it was specifically bad with the final boss fight. I can't remember what it was, but I remember getting there and like a good half of the game mechanics became
just pointless, you know? Like you're like, okay, so why did I even have the choice to go down these roads, you know? And to that extent, you know, like with this, you have the ability to do that. But at the same time, enemy formations are like doing the same to you. So they will do things like put your strong hitter in the back sometimes, or pull your healer up front, you know, and
there is a specific kind of enemy in the water world that are all about pushing and pulling your characters out of order.
Yeah.
And it is chaos.
Yeah.
It is so frustrating.
It's terrifying when you get pulled out of order. And same for them. They'll have weak healers or casters in the back, you know, that are like trying to keep the team alive, but they're being evasive or hiding in the shadows.
And the satisfaction of pulling their caster to the front row and just being like, ho, ho, ho.
One of the funnest things is in the Sprawl, which is the Burning City lit like area. There's a type of enemy that's the small guy in the back, but he's got a giant like exploding like vase on his head, and he's trying to rush to the front every turn to blow himself up and do massive damage. And like you have to stop him before he gets 3 ranks up to the front rank, you know? So the whole game becomes the opposite. You're like, no, get him back, push him back, you know?
Yeah.
I think as well, if we can, we would be remiss to talk anything about this game and its mood and its setting without talking about Wayne Jude, the voice of the narrator, the voice of the ancestor, who, if it's the thing that if you've seen the first game at all, you know this voice, but, you know, there remains a foothold out of this mire. Now climb. You know, just that voice throughout the whole game. I don't know. To me, like, that was the first thing that grabbed my heart and locked me in, was the sound of the narrator.
So what I would say, and this is kind of a topic I wanted to bring up, I think his voice performance is fantastic. I think some of the lines are good, and some of them I don't like.
Okay. All right.
This might hurt a little, Woolie. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's, you know, it's not like I have like hundreds of these things. Just I literally am like, I have moments in my brain where I'm playing, and just in any other game I'll play a moment and I'll hear a singular strike, you know, in my head. Like I love that, and I want that narration in all things that I do. There is a foothold, now climb. Brilliant line.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's great. There's other lines in it, and I feel like, so it kind of depends on what you think writing should be, okay? And there's one line that I think encapsulates some of my problem with the writing in this game.
Okay.
And it's lethality writ large.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you'll kill someone and he'll go, lethality writ large.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, what is he actually saying there? And it's like, okay, let's remove the verbosity. Let's turn off the Photoshop layers. Mm-hmm. He's saying big death.
Yes. Which
is kind of cool, but you know it's a big death because you just killed someone. You just watched them die. So it is, I feel like, this superfluous piece of writing that doesn't add anything. And I like, when people say, like, this writing is bad, they very rarely, like, explain what they mean. What I like about there is a foothold and now climb, that is like saying something interesting about your scenario. It's putting an image in your mind of you're fucking just getting out of here, and like it really contextualizes the situation you're in this really beautiful way. Lethality writ large doesn't. It's kind of just it's just words. And what I would love to see instead of that are two things. One, I would love more lore about this world. I would love, like, you know, if you kill an enemy and he dropped a little piece of info about the enemy or something like that. I would also love if they went the more... I can see you have something to say.
I do.
And we will absolutely get to it, my friend. I would also love, like... So I think, like, if you kill an enemy, if they wanted to apply some context to what something happened, they could do something like blood spills on steel or something like that. Like some image in your mind, some visual hook that you can grab onto for what's just happened, as opposed to big death.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. And I know you've experienced a good amount at this point to have heard a lot of them, but there's so many. I will say that what you're describing absolutely exists, and I would say is the majority of the lines in the game. And in the encounters that you have where, for example, in the Fetter, you approach the house from outside and you hear like something like there's a like a, can you hear it, disturbing cries from inside the house, you know, and
that's great,
and then you go
that's
in
brilliant.
And you have to fight your way into the house, and when you get to the house and you see what the boss is, it's this disturbing, like, malformed baby creature, you know, and like it absolutely has lines about the context, about what you're doing, and then of course once it's done.
And
right?
I did start to experience more of that, especially as I got better at the game and got to those bosses and saw those encounters.
I would also say that there's growth and moments with the characters that are really phenomenal as well, where every time a particular class of character dies, like some of the best lines, you know, I feel like are in these moments where you have when the highwayman like dies, you know, you get a not all who seek redemption will find it, right? You get like one of those moments.
And that's nice, you know, that's like communicating cool things.
But if you level him up in the town and you unlock each of those paths and you get to that sort of final one, which each of these characters, they get a specific line as well in those moments. And for him, his is like a watchful protector. He'll safeguard the roads he once haunted, you know? And you get this kind of like a bit of a resolution for them. And then some of that other growth comes from the character stories. You know?
Yeah. And this is something I wanted to touch on because this was one of my favorite parts of the game. And basically, sometimes you'll hit these wells of remembrance, and in them, you can pick a character and you will experience a piece of their backstory. Now, that's cool, but what is kind of mind-blowing to me is how they will take the turn-based combat system and turn it into you arguing with your college professor, or you trying to steal keys from the nun who beats you in the orphanage, or you trying to like build a wall or feed your sister, all this kind of stuff. And it's fucking genius. Like, this is, I want an RPG of just moments like this. I want this combat system to be built around narrative I don't want this game to be that. I just want another game that is that, you know? And
they're some of my favorite parts of the entire game. And
because it's fucking game design.
Yes.
It's like the game designers taking this battle system, breaking it open, and just being like, okay, what's the furthest we can push this? So like in one turn, so in the example with where you're arguing with the college professor, you're arguing with like all your kind of peers, and you're trying to keep your stress meter down, and you keep your stress meter down by checking your notes. And then, oh shit, he's starting to stumble over his words. Now you counter. And that puts pressure on him and his stress meter goes up. Brilliant. Loved it. I would love more games to do shit like that.
Yeah. That's so it was the reason why I was like, try to clear the act, you know, but also like do these side stories, because like that's a part of the game I wanted to make sure you did not miss. And not only are they really great, but so each character will have five of them. There are 5 confessions. 3 of them will be just narrative spoken moments of like, this is what happened next, and then 2 or 3 of them will be these like puzzle gameplay plot moments as we're describing. And each time you clear one, of these wells of remembrance, you get access to a new move that you can use with that character and change their gameplay style entirely. So there's a great reward and incentive in addition to it being narratively just the most fun and interesting thing to do. And as you complete them, you find out everything about the character. You learn their full story, how and why they came to be where they are, and you have their full move list available to you, of which many times the thing that you are doing in the memory is a skill that you unlock in the present, which is why your character can now do that thing, because they remembered the moment when they learned how to do it.
It's such a beautiful way to like build up who these characters are, as well as introduce new moves. And like it might be my favorite thing about the game, nearly, because I want to talk about the art direction.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting, right? One of the things I think is maybe like not a misstep necessarily, but I think the first two locations, the Sprawl and the Tangle,
mm-hmm.
you basically have Fire World and Forest World.
Yeah, those choices are random each time you do it, and you do the forest. The intro level is the same, but from level 2 onward, you have a couple of different ones at random.
Yeah, and the Forest World is like, it's full of bugs and it's full of like kind of the undead, and like it's a haunted, spooky forest, and it's cool. It's cool. I wouldn't say it's like the most interesting shit in the game, and the Fire World is a little more interesting because first of all, there's this like weird, nearly like dystopian military with gas masks and all this kind of stuff, but then there's also this like kind of Cult of the Flame kind of vibe where it's all these fire demons, and it's not that they're just like fire demons, they're very clearly like these, I don't know, people who have given into this cult, and they're all on fire and they're throwing bombs at you, and they have all these really crazy looking like transformation stuff, and it's interesting, and I liked that. But I did beat the first boss of this game, and I started to experience the second two worlds. I am blanking on the names, Woolie. The Sea World?
Yep, so the Shroud is that.
The Shroud.
Yeah.
The Shroud, and then it's like a haunted farm.
Yeah. The Fetter.
The Fetter. And like the Shroud is amazing because it's this sea world, but it's also playing into like Cthulhu mythos kind of stuff.
Yes.
So there's some real some real eldritch beasts in there. The sub boss of that place is the Leviathan, and he's just this giant monster coming out of the water. But like there's also like there's jellyfish who have attached themselves to drowned sailors, and like their jelly part is surrounding the person's head. And the jellyfish's tentacles are wrapped around the different limbs, and they're marionetting this person you're fighting.
And it looks like a deep sea diver helmet on their head.
It is
as a jellyfish, yeah.
S-rank design. It looks so fucking good. And one of them is one of my favorites. It's like a jellyfish, but it's like a little cradle, and inside it is just this alien baby,
Yes.
and it's like, oh my
Kill that
god,
thing before it has a chance
this
to
is
hatch.
so cool.
Yeah.
So
the level order is it's random every time, right? So you might get the Sprawl up first, or you might get it last, and you kind of pick your paths, and they usually provide you with 2 or 3 choices. I think the Eldritch designs are coming off of some of the first kind of Fishman designs they had in the first game, and they really just took it to the next level with that.
So this does really feel like a set of enemies. They've gone, how do we take this even further?
Yeah, and I think as well, like the whole ranking system and how that plays in with the art design. Like, I don't know if did you see the mini bosses of the forest area or the fire city by any chance?
So yes, I did. There's the librarian in the fire city.
Yeah.
There's the old tree knight in the forest area.
Yes. Exactly.
Then there's Leviathan in the ocean, and then the Fetter, is that the other one? There's Oh, the fucked up corn baby.
The creepy baby. Yeah, exactly, right.
Yeah. So yeah, I fought all the sub bosses.
I love how the like the librarian is like, so basically the whole thing with the sprawl is that they're burning the city down, and you have to kind of go through it. Throughout the game, you're helping rescue people as well, but if people on your party don't want to do that, then you're kind of playing with their affinity for each other. But like people are in the city while it's being burnt down, and like you can make it to the library where the librarian, each rank like of the 4 enemy ranks, they're all stacks of books, and the librarian is burning them down to get closer to you, and you have to like hit him from the back row and try to take him out before he gets point blank. Otherwise, he can do like a crazy damaging attack. You know?
I only fought the librarian once, and I think I made the mistake of being like, "You're in here with me," and I attacked his books.
Oh yeah, no, he's trying to.
That's why that
down.
Dude kept wiping me out. Okay, gotcha.
So there's little things like that with each one, or like the general, right, who's like fallen and become part of the tree, and he's just kind of like rotting away, but he's still attached to the vines, you know?
Yeah, that's where I saw some of the like real S tier art direction.
Incredible
first,
stuff.
because it is absolutely gorgeous. Like if you're an illustrator or you're into drawings, you have to check this game out. Like even if it's not your kind of game, just spend a couple of hours with it and just soak up some of these designs, because they are fucking amazing. And
I feel like a lot of those moments, because these bosses are really hard too, and if you're not ready for them, they can wipe your party. You get to them exhausted in many cases.
These wiped me more than anything else.
Yeah.
But I always wanted to fight them because I wanted to see them.
Yeah, you know, and you have these moments where it's like, oh, big rewards, and you know, in some cases you like have to get through one, but like when you do, like, or as your party falls and stuff, there's these moments where it's like, okay, there's a higher chance of getting a resolute spin, so maybe the last 3 or last 2 can make it out, you know? And then in those moments where you're hanging on by a thread, and you know, you just happen to crawl through, or sometimes you don't. It's in those moments where you fail, the cart crashes, the whole thing is done, and then you get the narrator going on and on, over and over, until the truth is laid bare, until you are finally free. And you're like, oh,
it's great.
That's
so good.
exactly where my heart is right now, you know?
And like, just on the subject of those sub bosses, you really get some like game changing items sometimes when you beat them. And so it is this real mental math of like, this dude might like quite like there, because I don't know, maybe it gets this point, Woolie. I never got to a point with those sub bosses where I was like, I've got this. It was always a struggle.
Always.
I was always hobbling out of those fights.
Yes. Even when I make it with no one dead, they're not in good shape. Always.
No, they're stressed out, they're fucked up. But it's great, and like it's kind of interesting because like I do feel like Fear and Hunger is kind of, it's a bit deceptive in that it feels random. When you really start to understand the deeper levels of that game, it's not. And it's more just like, okay, this is my tool set, and I know enough about this game to go this direction. I think, now correct me, feel free to say it if you disagree, I feel like there is more a random element to Darkest Dungeon, but it's not random in a way that they didn't plan it right. It's random that they've really tried to make it this way, because I think they never want you feeling comfortable. They always want your back to be against the wall.
Yes, and what happens is it's random in a way that starts out in, it generally is always to your disadvantage. But what you find in each run are things that can start curbing the randomness in your favor. But every trinket you put on often has a downside, right?
Yes.
So you will notice that you're like, I can make myself really strong and very prepared for fire. So when I go into this burning city, I have a lot of defense for that. But I'm going to be vulnerable to poison and blight or something else. And so you have to curb the randomness in your favor. And even when you're crushing it, like there's always a thing that can kryptonite your team. You know, but when the synergy is working, you are like, as long as I know what I'm attacking and I planned in advance, I can annihilate by having a nice like turn back to back moment. In some cases it's like get an extra turn when you kill a thing, and like buff your team. Like there's all these things that work hand in hand with each other, and other things that are like, actually, if you are bleeding, you do more damage now. Turn that disadvantage into an advantage.
And like it's a brutal enough game that even slight advantages, sometimes they might just happen to synergize with the way you've set up your party, which multiply into these, like, sometimes you feel like you're cheating. Sometimes you're like, look what I can do. And it's so satisfying.
Yeah. Did you, in your party, did you create any relationships with your team?
Oh, did I?
Okay.
Yeah. Mostly bad relationships.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I very rarely got good relationships going.
Okay.
Which was annoying because I like, maybe I just don't understand this part of the game enough, but I felt like there was times where I was really stacking up friendship points between characters, and then they would still resent each other.
So in the first game, it would just be all about stress management, and you'd have these camp moments where you'd sit down and de-stress, by like telling stories or sharpening your knives or such. In this game, it's you sit down at the cabin and you take a load off, and everyone's like, and the music that plays is this kind of very warm, like, all right, you have a moment to take some respite, and and you can essentially, every time a character does an interaction that the other teammates agree with or disagree with, it'll make it go positive or negative individually. So some people will be like you'll have a party of 4, 2 people will be like, let's help those stragglers by giving them some of our resources, and then 2 of them will be like, nah, fuck that, let's rob them, and whichever one you pick, 2 are going to go up and 2 will go down. And you basically, and then every time, like I said, like someone has a meltdown, it goes down by 2 points or so and up. And once you're at 0 in the middle, and you can go up to -10 or +10. And if you do, you are in the negatives. You can become resentful, where now every time you do a move, like the game will pick a move and that 2 characters have, and every time one person does that, the other person will be like jealous of them and take a debuff. Or
and like that can, the wrong move on the wrong character can absolutely annihilate your run. So I remember, like, I use so with the runaway, I use their like their burn stick a lot. Yeah. And then another character became so resentful of that whenever the runaway would use it, they'd go blinds. And it was like, but then it's cool because then you start looking at your moves. You start being like, okay, what else can we do here? What can we kind of shuffle together to make this work?
Mm-hmm. And so what happens in the other side of things is when you go into the positives, people create like loyal, trustworthy relationships, and it'll be like, when I use this move, you get a buff, right?
Oh, I think I experienced very little of that.
Okay, and those moments are great, steadfast. Yeah. You've got my back.
So, okay, what percentage of this game is like you managing people's stress and friendships? Because I think I probably don't pay enough attention to that.
I would say 20% of your experience or so. 25% of your experience is a lot of that. Wow, it gets more important the later you go. At first, you can kind of just play it like an RPG, and people are doing
because at first you're not really making it past like the first or second area as you learn it.
But later on, it becomes huge because you're always stressed out, and some of the best things you're doing are almost like inflicting stress, to the point where you can create. There's party members that are all about de-stressing, not even healing, not even support, but just de-stressing the party.
Right.
But one thing that like is great is, like, again, for every counterpart, there's the opposite. So for all these moments of like distrust, you could have a party that likes each other, or you could have characters that are amorous. So the last run I did, I had 2 party members were 3 party members were in a 3-way essentially. So I had my highwayman who was amorous with a man-at-arms and with a plague doctor. but then the Man-at-Arms and Plague Doctor were distrustful of each other.
Oh,
Right? So
what's the definition of amorous?
amorous is that's your partner. That's a relationship.
Oh,
Yes, and
well, that's some spicy.
yeah,
gameplay.
and so what's awesome is like when you have these amorous relationships, they're even better than just like loyal and trustworthy, because like an amorous partner will jump in when you're about to kill something and finish it off for you, and then give them a quick so they'll get the killing blow and they'll look back at their partner and just give them a wink, you know? Or if they're at death's door, the amorous partner will grab them and be like, "I'm not letting you go," and like they'll heal them back up and bring them back.
I'm so bad. Okay,
and reduce the stress.
The other thing I'd say about this game is like, I am definitely not done playing this game.
Okay.
I will probably, I might stream some of it at some point. But all the shit you're saying is like, fuck, I want to experience that so bad. You know.
And so like again, I know that. Just trying to, my hopes were that trying to get through the first two acts, which the first act you can handle. The second boss is brutal, and I knew that would be kind of a wall.
The second boss was the wall.
Yep, that's it.
Now, what I would say is that if I perhaps were not have the month I'm having in terms of moving and stuff, I think I could have got a couple more runs in there, and I actually think I could have done it.
Okay,
I feel like I could have done it. But I got to it once, and it was a long battle. I did okay, but at the same time, you know what? I don't know that I did okay. I think the end of that sentence is, I have no idea.
Okay. Right. Keeping in mind that surviving with one character is often that's a run. You did it. You made it out with one, you know?
Wow. Okay.
So the first arc, the denial, right? Each of these chapters is named for, you know, something that the academic is experiencing. The shackles of denial. How did that go for you?
It took me a while, but I eventually I made it to the boss, wiped on the boss, and that, I think after that, I started really seeing the value in like a lot of the stats, like the stat debuffs. So like I was using Plague Doctor and Runaway a lot and applying a lot of blind.
Okay.
So whenever there's a meaty guy in the other party, I am blinding them and then just wailing on them. Or well, even blinding them and keeping the big guy debilitated while I kill the littler guys that are buffing them.
Okay.
Because there was a lot of that.
Yeah. No, those are the right lessons, you know. And as you approach the mountain, it's like it's like a test, right? It's like, okay, show your work, show us what you've learned. You're gonna have some real fights, you know. Cool. I'm glad you got to feel that. And then yes, the second boss, the Seething Sigh, is absolutely a nightmarish like struggle. But
yep,
making it to the other side of that is a real accomplishment. So, cool. Well. Yeah, this game is not without its faults, and I think those are all quite valid. I think the cart is absolutely, you know, many people share that as like the.
I think they're still figuring out what that's going to be.
Yeah, they've reworked it already, you know, and they've reworked it into such a way where like I'm okay with kind of just having it be a means of getting from, you know, the one point on the map to the next, and I kind of treat it as if I'm playing, like I said, Slay the Spire or so.
Yeah, and like I don't consider it like this massive negative. I think just compared to the rest of the game, which is so tight, I kind of look at the cart section, and especially in those first couple of hours, and I'm like, what are we doing here?
And then, you know, I mean, on the narration, I have to say that, like, coming through the, you know, by the other end of the final boss of that, there are just so many great lines that, like, stick with you, that mean things and are the right thing to hear in the right moment. And that the first game was like this as well, and that's what stood out to me. I mean, when you get hit with, like, you can't learn a thing you think you know.
Oh, that's good.
Like, ooh. right? That sits in your chest, and that line stays with me outside of the game. You know?
Yeah, no, that's real good. Let me ask you, Woolie, which do you prefer, the first game or the second?
I prefer the second game.
Interesting.
I prefer the second game.
Because I am actually very curious to go back and play the first game.
Yep. The first game is brutal, but very fun. And it really has a lot of these concepts, working in a way.
I could just see that being a nice Switch hotel game.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. But
I played most of this on Steam Deck, and it runs great on Steam Deck. What I would say, the screen real estate struggles.
Yeah. That has always, so that's been the case. Even the first game had a larger problem with that. This is actually streamlined.
Yeah,
but it's packed in.
And it became less as a problem as I started to learn the symbols and what everything meant. But initially, it really was, navigating those menus was tricky.
Yeah.
And because you need to navigate those menus, you basically need 2 sets of shoulder buttons and the face buttons.
So the way I was playing, and this is like a part of the cart control stuff for me too, was like I said, I want to play this game with a mouse only, no keyboard. And fortunately it is capable of doing so by just having it to be like click on the item you want to, right clicking to bring up the info on it, and the cart you can just click and move forward as well, left and right. And then there's an alt button you need to just get secondary info on things, But there are moments where the speed icon for 2 speed lines and 3 speed lines, you have to be able to distinguish between those two, because one is 50% and one is 75, right? A 50% shield versus a thicker, heavy 75% shield. Those icons can look very similar to each other as well. So being really small on the screen is not going to help with legibility.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't think I said it earlier, but I just want to drop my party. It was Plague Doctor, the Armor Woman, Runaway, and Highwayman.
Okay. That's a good team. That can work, but it is not super balanced because Plague Doctor and Vestal are kind of they can fill the same roles in some cases as 2 support groups. But there's a lot of different ways to function. For me...
See, with Vestal, what I love about her is if you make her the... I think it's the Crusader... She gets a faith token every time she gets hit.
Yeah.
And when she gets 3, she just becomes a nuke.
Yes.
And she can just drop this giant blast on people. And so I found her very flexible in terms of being able to heal people, but also being able to inflict major damage to any other member of the party.
Yeah, a really good way to play is to have, you can have self-sufficient, rank-agnostic characters that are okay being in any spot, taking care of themselves, and being ready for taking damage or dishing it, But... for me, my all-star team, my Jordan, Pippen, Rodman, my full team is that I took to the
one other member of the Chicago Bulls who we don't know.
I mean, Kukoc.
Sure.
Is the so I would put the Hellion up front, which is the barbarian woman with the big.
I did have her for a while.
Yeah. So she is a really great, strong frontline character that has the ability to stab, do a breakthrough, and hit 3 enemies in a row, or right while moving forward if she gets out of rank. And then from the front line, she can do Iron Swan, which is a large snipe that spears the enemy in the back row. Lots of really good, massive damage things. And every time she does one of her powerful moves, she bleeds herself. So then she has to take a minute and cool down, but every time she comes back in, massive damage right off the bat, and then some debuffs to manage, right? Second row, I put the Highwayman, as we talked about. Duelists advance, get the counter going, point blank shot, fall back, pick targets, because by putting targets on things, you can get extra advantages on your team as well. Third rank, the Grave Robber, right? The Grave Robber is fantastic. She doesn't need to rely on anybody. She can drink Absinthe and Heal Herself. Every time a body is...
Oh, I actually used her early on as well.
Okay.
I really liked her.
She's fantastic, and when you switch her path up to pick one of her, there's a path that she has at the that you unlock, like her fourth path, where she becomes able to like slide around and attack two enemies at once while moving to the front, then attack one enemy and slide to the back, and she starts moving around.
Wow!
Right, while like keeping herself healthy, and every time a body is on the ground, which takes up a spot, she can hack the body apart and heal herself while removing the body.
Jesus, that's so cool.
So absolute management of the territory. And then in last place, I had my healer as the occultist, which is right. He has a unreliable heal. Roll a d20 and hope for the best. You might get a 1, you might get like a 20, or you might get a super crit and get like full health back in 1. But it also might make you bleed, right? There's a little bit of randomness to it. But in the meantime, he's using tentacles to pull the back row to the front. He's using daggers to like stab and build up his occult points. And then he can actually do like the burning stars, which is like just a light from heaven from the nether realm that like wipes out whatever is on the spot that he targets, you know?
That's so cool.
So this type of team...
You have given me a lot to think about.
Yeah, I just like a really good synergy team that plays well with each other. And plus, I love randomizing their names as well. There's some really fun names you can click to rename each character in the beginning and change their look and their colors and outfit and stuff. Lots of fun bits. But all of that together makes for what I think is just a more... it's a funner game in a lot of ways. A lot of the things that were less complete or systems that were introduced in Darkest Dungeon 1, I feel like they refined really tightly in 2. Still have the cart and stuff to figure out, but overall the experience is better. And I touched on it last episode, but each chapter builds up a thing, and the final boss is the culmination of everything it's building up, and it ties in so well to the story, the individual characters, the world. The final boss of this game is one of the best final bosses I've had the pleasure of experiencing.
You mentioned this last episode. Look,
it's so well done.
My hope is that at some point we get to properly talk about that.
I hope so. Yeah,
because I am going to keep going with this game.
Okay. Yeah, like make sure you just, like I said, so when I play with the mouse, I just have it set to like one thumb button is escape and the other thumb button is alt, and then you just have the two mouse keys, and then the rest you can just sit back and one button it, you know. But
gotcha.
Yeah, if we do get to discuss that, like it's one of those things where you're like your game design has thought about all the strongest points and brought them together, you know. So.
And I would say I agree with you. I think this is a fantastic game. I think initially when I played it, there was an absolute surge of, oh, this is so cool. And then there was maybe a cooling off period where I struggled with like kind of some of the mechanics, and like I was like, well, like that was kind of where I was really, really having trouble like wrapping my head around the meta of what they wanted me to do with the cart and all that kind of stuff. And then when I pushed through that and got to the other side, this became a near perfect podcast game, became a nice chill out game, became a really like fun game to play when it gets really intense, and it scratches so many itches, and I think it's great, and I am very curious to see where it's going to land.
Yeah, in
the pantheon of greatness.
Okay. Let's see. So, as we pull this up, you have gotten, so like what is like in terms of the two things were try your hand at getting through those first 2 chapters, and then try to complete a story with one of the characters. How much have you seen, and like what is our caveat?
So the second boss was the wall.
Okay. Have you managed to complete any of the character stories, or did you
not complete them? I got a fair few in all of them, but I didn't complete any.
Okay. So this is based on, let's say, the first 2 chapters of.
I would say the first 20 hours, but I think we can just say Darkest Dungeon 2, and I will take into account how much you love it.
I mean, hey, let's just be honest. Let's be honest with our placements. So,
well, no, we're being honest, but both our love. I think it's important that both our feelings towards a game factor into it.
Fair. Would you say that do we have to go step by step every time?
Woolie, we have rules. We have rules.
All right.
We're going to do this podcast for a couple of years. This process is going to take several hours every time.
Silent Hill Ascension.
No.
The game
it's not better than Silent Hill Ascension.
The game that narnt. Omicron.
The game that narnt. I don't know what that means, but it's perfect. Look, it's better than Silent Hill Ascension. Is it better than Omicron the Nomad? Of course it's better than Omicron Nomad Soul. Is it better than missing and fighting game tournaments? Most certainly.
I love how that's the that's the entry that stays on that, by the way.
Yeah. I think it has to be. Is it better than Cybersex?
6.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's better than that. It's better than that show.
Okay.
Is it better than Police Knots? I think so. Is it better than Fear and Hunger? I'm gonna say no.
Okay.
But I think it should go past Fear and Hunger for the simple reason I think our average I had a better experience with Darkest Dungeon 2 than you had with Fear and Hunger.
I think if I started Fear and Hunger on Fear and Hunger difficulty, I would have had a different experience with it. I think Terror and Starvation had a huge sculpting of how that was received. Nonetheless, I will say that I think looking at this list, what comes next is Hunter x Hunter, Vinland Saga, starting Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Legend of the Galactic Heroes up to Ep 15, Kill 6 Billion Demons, Earthbound, and then Berserk in the Throne of Heaven. I don't think it surpasses those, so it either goes above
so you're saying,
or below Fear and Hunger, in my opinion.
So you don't think so for you, it doesn't surpass Hunter x Hunter?
I think the part of what I've seen, because it's the beginning of Hunter x Hunter, of the arcs I've seen, but then I'm comparing it versus the first 2 chapters, right? If I'm comparing the ending of the game and or the full experience, then it certainly does. But this is where we have to consider things like how much we've seen.
That's a tough one, because, like, to me, like, I'm getting the feeling that you feel like I've basically beaten the tutorial and I'm now into the real me.
It's not so much that. I mean, you've gotten a feel for it, but I do think there's just, to quote the line, "Are you scared? There's so much worse left in store."
Okay. I think in that case, I am comfortable with it being between Fear and Hunger and Hunter x Hunter.
Okay.
And I would also say, like with Hunter x Hunter, I feel like we're at near identical points with Darkest Dungeon and Hunter x Hunter, for as ludicrous as it is to actually compare these 2 pieces of media. We're just getting going with Hunter x Hunter.
Okay.
Like, we are tutorial over. We know what Nen is. Let's have some fun.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, when you start getting characters like the Flagellant, who show up and their whole deal is that they don't have resolve that goes like, they don't get resolute and they don't get meltdowns. They go toxic. And they flail themselves and the party hates them, but they can also manage stress and they're really strong. But every once in a while, there's a unique boss that only targets that one enemy that might spawn at the end of a random fight during your journey that you can only see if this team member is on your team. Like,
that's so cool.
It's next level stuff, right? A real just stream adventure game. So, I'm okay with that spot. Okay. We're getting started.
And I would also say, if people are interested at all, I will probably be playing this on stream.
Cool.
At some point in the next while.
Okay.
Cool. Okay.
Be sure to set some names as people and have some fun with that as well.
I nearly ran into some trouble, Woolie. I was about to do that in Fear and Hunger once upon a time. And then I realized what that might mean. And it was like, oh, abort.
Okay, all right. Understood. Mm-hmm. I get you.
Okay. Now, Woolie, I do believe we have some sponsorships for this episode.
Let's take a quick word from our sponsors. So, this week, this episode, we are sponsored by Rocket Money. Shout-outs to Rocket Money. So, yeah, this is a service that is particularly useful because the way that we have found ourselves in the year of our Lord 2024 is one where everything is trying to create a subscription service. Everything is trying to get you to sign up for things, and everything's trying to charge you every month for a thing. And Lord knows I cannot remember what I've signed up for. Lord knows I can barely keep track of it. Some of the things are on one card, but then my other card over here has a different setup going. And some of them are going from it's all over the place. And
the horror of that service from 4 years ago that you just signed up to so you could use it once and realize that you've never unsigned.
Right.
And if you're saying right now, well, that's never happened to me, are you sure?
How about the fact that like most of the time, that confusing are my still signed up thing is a part of the business plan, like where literally there's apps where they're like, our whole goal is to make you sign up and forget that you've signed up. That's literally what we want to do. And we'll do everything we can to make you forget. So you don't notice the charge that's getting deducted on your card every month. And it just becomes a questionable mess, right? So yeah, Rocket Money is specifically for finding subscriptions you forgot about or double paid for, or anything that was not canceled that you wanted to. And it helps you find all that stuff and very easily and simply cancel subscriptions that you do not mean to continue to be signed up for. There's a stat that I see here that says most Americans think they spend about $62 per month on subscriptions, but the real number is close to $300.
Yeah, I ran those numbers by myself and I stopped because I got uncomfortable. I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no,
yeah.
no.
Yeah. I have subscriptions that I have that are like literally for like business stuff, for, signing up for the whatever podcast hosts and stuff. And then there's all my personal stuff. And then there's stuff where it's like, this falls in between. And I'm like, when was that? What? No, that's not, it's, or things that transferred from one service to another. It's horrendous. So yeah, we're not going to get companies and apps that are trying to remind us about this stuff anytime soon. The best you can do, I think, is to just have an easy way to keep track of all your subscriptions in one place and know exactly where your money's going. And that's what Rocket Money is very useful for.
Yeah, and it is a really helpful tool. Like, if you just don't have a grasp on your personal finance, like, I'm a big believer in keep track of that shit and learn about what you're doing and learn like the ins and outs to what you should be doing with your money. And once you start to, like, tools like this are genuinely really, really valuable. And I'm pretty happy to have them sponsoring the show.
Yeah,
I gotta say.
So, in addition to getting rid of the unwanted subscriptions, of course, they also can help you just monitor your spending on things and, help you grow your savings while like lowering your bills, keeping an oversight on how your spending is going, and how you can start saving. I'll giving you alerts if a bill increases in price while you weren't noticing, something that you were not keeping track of if a price goes up or so. Things that can help you basically keep track of your budget if you have not been keeping track of your budget. Rocket Money comes in handy with that. So stop wasting your money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/VSWolves. That's rocketmoney.com/VSWOLVES.
It's rocketmoney.com/versus wolves, VS Wolves.
Thank you, Rocket Money.
Thanks, Rocket Money.
This episode of Versus Wolves is also sponsored by ExpressVPN. So there are many a time where I'm like, hey, I want to watch a show. Like, I don't know, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. That's a pretty fun show. Let me go watch that. And then my streaming service is like, hey, are you in Canada? No. Go fuck yourself. How about that?
Woolie, I live in Ireland.
Yes. Yeah, right?
A VPN service is absolutely vital for me to actually get the proper use out of the streaming services I use. But like sometimes it is fucking wild what you can find on other services. I only learned recently that for a long time, and this might still be the case, I don't know. So the entire Ghibli library has been available on UK Netflix, and it was not available on American Netflix for the longest time.
Incredible.
That's fucking game changing. Like, everyone should watch every one of those movies, and this is that. Like, it's such a simple way to do that. I am a big believer in ExpressVPNs. I don't want no one poking around my business. That's my business, Woolie.
It's really useful to have the ability to see something like, hey, a game is coming out today. Seems like if you live in New Zealand, you can currently play it, but not if you're on this side of the planet. Well, how about I click this button and, hey, look at that. I've teleported to New Zealand. Now I can play the game. That's really nice.
And like with ExpressVPN in particular, I've actually been using them for like 5 years. And like one of the things I love about them, it's so fucking simple. It's literally just click the big round button dummy and it just works.
That's it.
And it's like it's so handy.
And it works. You can have it work at your router level as well, where any device connecting can be protected as well. So yeah, in addition to the ability to like not have your streamers and game services like, you know, bully you for what you can and can't watch, even though you're already paying for the service. It's nice as well to be like, hey, you have some, your ISP is not tracking your data, which can be then sold, and, you know, you can be targeted for ads and stuff. And, you know, I mean, and then of course there's your McDonald's Wi-Fi 12-year-old who's looking to potentially steal your ID. And you don't want that as well. So click the button that kicks that kid out and hands him off to his parents.
I think like VPNs are one of those things where like at some point you will wish that you had one. So just get one. They are just necessary in this day and age. And personally, I cannot recommend ExpressVPN enough.
That's it. Yep. I've been using it for a while. And again, I just find even little things on and off from time to time in different places throughout the day. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, let me just turn it on for this and then turn it back off. So,
you know, it's a fun evening. Exploring Japanese Netflix.
Japanese Netflix, man. Japanese Netflix.
Yep.
Japanese Netflix is an absolute trip. Exactly. So secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/versuswolves. That's expressvpn.com/VERSUSWOLVES. You can get an extra 3 months for free. That's expressvpn.com/versuswolves. Thank you.
Thank you, ExpressVPN.
Cheers.
So, I don't know about you, Woolie.
If I can get it worse every time, then I'm winning. My job is to do the worst rendition possible of the Guts theme every single time.
Okay, just be clear. You like the Guts theme, though, right?
It's the best.
Okay.
I'm not doing this again. We're in the friendship era. We're having a good time.
Of course.
And you know what? There's so much friendship afoot that for the third recording in a row, we are going to talk about Berserk.
Woolie, dude, I don't know about you. The trouble I had forcing myself to sit down and read this. Like, not like just the apprehension of, no, I don't want more Berserk. Like, no, I know what it is. I don't want to reopen this wound.
I mean, we had a moment just briefly discussing it, but like, yeah, opening up that page, opening up that chapter.
You know what? I'm going to say if we can maybe pull that bit from the intermission lounge, just that bit where we were like, see you on the other side, buddy. Like, if we can just show a little bit of that. because the apprehension we both felt going into this. And this ultimately brings us to the final thing I want to ask you here, Woolie. So we record these in a little bit of a fractured manner sometimes. So as of yet, I have not read the new Berserk. Have you?
I pulled the page up, I cracked it open, I looked at the first picture, and I couldn't do it.
So
no.
you feel the fear.
I'm so afraid,
Dude, I'm so fucking
I'm so
scared.
afraid.
I genuinely feel like we are going into the next episode holding 2 fucking sticks of lit dynamite, just being like, oh,
It's right there.
Because what if we hate it?
It's right
what if
there.
we hate it?
I opened it up and I looked at it, and I turned the page once, and I went, I'm coming back to this later.
Yeah, I still haven't done it. And I'm scared, dude. I am fucking scared. Woolie, every day for the last week, I've been like, I'll read it tomorrow.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
not. This is a problem exasperated by having no fucking time at all for anything. As of about 5 hours ago, I had not read it.
Okay. I pulled it up like 2 weeks ago. Started. I saw the first page, and I was like, nah, I'll get back to this. You know?
I don't know what it is. I have never had so
yeah.
much trouble. Well, I mean, I do know what it is.
Of course.
It's because
course.
Mira's not writing it anymore. And I was terrified of opening up Berserk and seeing the characters I love and not feeling it.
Right.
I was deathly afraid of that.
So, for those of you who are tuning in without the context, we are both going beyond Morning Dew. Berserk Volume 42, Chapters 366 to, as of recording, 376 are what we read, and this is the first moments of everything after Miura, once Studio Gaga and Koji Mori have taken over.
Yeah. And I want to start this section by saying what an incredible effort by those people. And I respect the living fuck out of what they're doing. And I have so much admiration for, like, you know, the love and the heart they are clearly pouring into this. It's an impossible situation. If I died and the people I cared about did something like this in the name of me, I think that would be a profoundly beautiful thing. And I just want to say that the goal on Versus Wolves is we're always going to be straight up and honest about what we think. And I'm going to be. But I genuinely, really, really respect what they're doing here. And having read it, I can see the love that's gone into this, and I can see the attempt to emulate what Miura did. And I have nothing but love for that. And I just really want to make that so clear at the start here.
I think that, again, when you take into account all the circumstances, barring Miura's like hidden manuscript of panel by panel what the rest of the story was going to be, which doesn't exist, this really is the best possible. This is the best we can get with what we have, I think.
Yes.
And that is the team Studio Gaga, which was founded by Miura, which was everyone that he worked with on Berserk over the years, with a studio name so that they can be credited as a studio. And Koji Mori, who is a close friend, who's had discussions with him, and over the years is someone who he's talked about the ending of his story with, and is the person that probably has the best insight into Miura's intentions and what he was.
If there was one person on the planet that is suited to something like this, is suited to a fucking impossible task, it's him.
Yeah. And I think that any other version of trying to get this done with different people is risking, like, just disrespecting the work of the man, you know? So this is the most respectful road that they've chosen for what we've got. I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
This is tough. This is tough.
I know how I feel, because I certainly thought there would be more, but it was actually really quick, right?
Yeah, I was done in about an hour.
It's a volume. It's a volume is about as far as we've reached since 2 years ago.
Okay. So the first thing I want to preface this with is that Koji Mori tells the story of how Miura, basically years and years ago, when the two of them were working late on some chapter or something, he basically laid out the entire story of Berserk and everything that was going to happen. That is what Koji Mori is going off in this story. Now, years later, and I think maybe I've talked about this before on the podcast, I think it was maybe in a 2019 interview, Miura basically said that he used to know how Berserk was going to end, but he doesn't anymore because he hasn't taken that journey with the characters. And with that in mind, I think you have to remember that what we're getting here is a snapshot of what Miura thought the ending would be at one particular point in time. And I say that because I think the only way for this to stand a chance is to consider it an ending to Berserk, not the ending.
Yeah, I think that you often hear writers and authors, mangaka, talk about exactly that, like the journey with the characters, or the characters write themselves. They speak for themselves. George R.R. Martin, takes as long as he does on things, and often talks about how just like you drop them into place when the scene starts, and then they're living and breathing on their own, And
yeah, there's a really great quote from the guy who wrote Breakfast of Champions, and it's about how, like, to him, he feels like he can control his characters in that he has loose rubber bands attached to their limbs from across a room, and he can kind of try and but they're gonna do their own thing. But they're gonna do their thing.
Yes.
And like even like working on Eyepatch Wolves, I have an idea of where that story is going, but the further I get into it, the more I'm like, well, this character wouldn't do that. And it's like, it's interesting the way, but like, that's long-term storytelling. Like, that's what it is.
Yeah, when a character, especially when a character is, I get more than two-dimensional, when they live and breathe off the page. And, unfortunately, the living, breathing character Guts only exists in Miura's head. And
yes,
that's the only place that journey would come to its end. I think that's the case. I think what you get here is like when you have adaptations of things, right? When it goes from one place onto the page, and then someone interprets it for mediums, for, maybe for film or for whatever the case, right? For Netflix, for anime. But your adaptations go through a filter of someone else, and they take that image and do their best to keep what's true. But there's always something lost in transfer. There's always something lost in fidelity.
And it would be impossible for there not to be.
So I guess with that, and I guess side note, I'm curious, have you read Holy Land or Jisatsuto? Like the
No, never.
Okay. So because I'm curious how Hamori stuff on its own kind of like goes, but yeah. Here we close off with the I guess the Fantasia arc, and we begin the Eastern Exile chapter. And point by point, like, we can kind of go through it, but I have a lot of question marks, and I have a very, very heavy feeling in my chest with what just took place in this volume 42.
Okay. So here it is for me. I think that no matter how hard I tried to suppress it, and no matter how hard I tried to like just push it down, there was a part of me that was hoping I was going to open this comic and I was going to read it and I'd be like, they're still here. These characters still exist in this world and I could still hang out with them. And I think one of the reasons I was so reluctant to read it is because I would know for certain whether that was true or not. And once it was true, awesome. If it wasn't true, they're never coming back, and Berserk is really over for me. And I think Berserk is really over for me.
Okay.
And it's hard to say that. And I really respect the effort being put forth here. But there was a lot in the writing of the characters where I feel like there's layers being lost. And there's a subtlety and heart to who they are that is just unfortunately not present.
So I think that something that might have been in a lot of readers' minds, especially given the pace and how things have gone, and it's a bit weird because oftentimes real world schedules versus the actual timeline in a story can just be independent of each other. So if you read the boat arc after the fact, you're like, oh, they're on the boat, they're off the boat. It took a while, but here we are. You don't feel that 10-year stretch, right? I think people are in a place where they're like ready for resolution. And that has been the feeling in real time for a while now. And the way things start here, as you read the close of the Elfheim part of the story, is actually like, it doesn't seem like it's moving that way. Like there's a couple pieces that seem to point that way, but it feels as if there's some moments of regression. It feels as if there's some moments of like anti-growth.
Yeah. And I think particularly in the character of Guts, when you lay him out across the whole of Berserk, it is just this beautiful gradient from one character to another. And personally, I felt like with some of the plot progression in this, I feel like we're kind of maybe retreading territory we've already been.
And it's interesting because like I don't fully blame him, because I understand in some ways how, the pool ball, the cue ball that hits knocks this piece into place, which knocks this piece, and he ends up in the state he's in because of the circumstances around him. But I'm not sure what's being set up, and we're in the middle of it, admittedly. So
to me, and I could be very wrong about this, and like just to be clear as well, like you say, like you don't blame Koji Mori. I don't blame Koji Mori for anything. I think he's just in the most impossible situation, and he's making the best go of it he can. And so, there is zero malevolence in my heart for any of this stuff. But it's the kind of thing where, if we're going to talk about this in terms of continuing the legacy of Berserk, we got to be honest about like why it is or is not working for us. And for me, it seems like the reins were taken, and very quickly we started putting the pieces together in terms of, okay, how do we bring this home? And I think you can really feel that in some of the plot developments. So one of the big ones is that Casca's been kidnapped.
Yeah. So I was gonna say that, like, to summarize in short, we pick back up from Morning Dew, right? Griffith has reemerged as the Moonlight Child and is standing before them. And, like, the first chapter is actually kind of interesting because it's almost like stopped time. The first chapter is kind of showing you where everyone is at that moment when he appears and it just kind of moves through in a way. And we kind of jump over to see what Danan and Serpico and them are up to and such. But the return of Griffith results in him basically, he turns and Guts reacts the way he's supposed to when he sees Griffith and just goes all out. Right? Just 0 to 60, goes 0 to 100, and he swings. And he's unable to touch Griffith. His sword doesn't strike true. Griffith plot armor teleports, uses his hair to stop the blade. He's a god, He's writing the script. And Casca, who had just returned but is still affected enough by the journey that she's still, like, having a visceral reaction to Guts and can't quite face him, but still loves him and knows that, this is a conflict. Turns and feels Griffith in the air, essentially, and he, from this Moonlight Child body, walks up, grabs her, Zod the Immortal lands, and then they fly off. And he kidnaps Casca. And Guts is left reaching out because he's like he can't do anything about what just happened. He literally tried. It meant nothing. And as they fly off, the island that they're on, Elfheim, is basically collapsing around them. And Guts just breaks. And what ends up happening in short order immediately after that is it's a bit visually unclear, I have to say, at this point, but the island kind of, like, unleashes some ancient life, and then they start swarming towards and threatening everyone on it, but then the island kind of sinks and explodes. But
so
visually,
I guess
it's a little unclear, I have to say.
So unfortunately, like, this is kind of comes to something else that I found really difficult about this series, in that, like, to me, one of the most razor sharp things about Berserk is its clarity. And it's everything from when Guts does a, like, complicated sword move to the expressions and emotions on his face. It's all so beautiful and, like, clear and communicated so efficiently, and it's incredible. And one of the biggest gut punches I felt reading this was that not being there anymore. And, like, it's not there because Miura, literal one of the greatest of all times in laying out a page and drawing manga, is not doing this anymore. And it's not fair to expect that of the people writing it. But it is one of the things I loved about Berserk, and it's very hard reading a page of Berserk and being like, wait a minute, what? Okay, hang on, what happened here?
So we move forward a bit, and we can see that, like, the island has started sinking. But again, I flipped back a few times to see, like, what the exact moment was, because it looks like a kind of, like, nuke almost goes off at one point. But it ultimately results in everyone abandoning ship, trying to get back to the boats, and they grab the survivors and carry them aboard and take off. And Danan, the Queen of Elfheim, basically says it's time to go, and then disappears with all of the otherworldly creatures, including Isma, who is Isidro's new friend, right? And They just,
that was a beautiful little sequence when she disappeared. I thought that was really well done.
very sad, like they're returning to their land, they've been managed to they've been on Elfheim for long due to like her protection, and with this threat and with the way things are going, she's one of those beings, so there they go. So Isidro loses her in that moment, and we kind of get Molda, the newer witch, and some of the others coming into also like as Sherke and Farnese are kind of just like in shock at how suddenly this all just collapsed and fell apart. And the Skull Knight is even like, hey, I can't actually save all of you. Like, I can help a bit, but this is playing out. You need to get out of here and do your own thing, survive, Molda steps in and kind of like is like, hey, we need anyone who can do anything to help to step up at this point. And they go on to do so. And so they're kind of managing that. But Guts, who has completely just broken at the sight of Casca being taken away, just drops to the ground and basically has to be carried aboard. And he's on the floor, sword on the ground, and he can barely hold it or pick himself up. And we see Sherke looking through in her astral form and seeing the actual memories of Guts and the Dragon Slayer, and him basically concluding that this was all for nothing. And just Guts in the lowest state we've probably seen him in since the eclipse.
Yeah, what do you think of this?
I don't know. This is this is the bow and arrow being pulled back, right? I don't know what the setup is here, except for like him, another lesson that he needs to learn, right? And he's in the process of going through all of that and coming to terms with why Casca's afraid of him, and all these moments are like really dawning on him, and they're bitter, but he's happy that she's back, and all those things. I can see a possibility of like there being perhaps just, again, another lesson he needs to learn, but to get there, we have to drag ourselves through the mud once again, right? You can't even allow yourself an ounce of hope for a second. But
I think like the thing I was so excited about is learning what would happen between Guts and Casca, because it was this deeply complicated thing where they love each other so much. She's too traumatized to face him. He's trying to be respectful of that. He really wants to see her. It's so beautiful. It's so heartbreaking. It's so gorgeous. And I feel a little bit like it's kind of like Rescue the Princess, and maybe that's a super dismissive way of putting it.
No, you've taken the words out of my mouth, because what I was about to say is that I think that there can be, I'm always open ears and eyes to like another facet of, again, someone's struggle to get over their traumas and everything that they've been through. I'm always open to the idea that there's one more facet that, maybe Guts needs to examine within, and to confront before we truly arrive, right? That's always a possibility. But in this instance, in order to do this, what the story's devices need to do is, I mean, again, Griffith is just literally the author of the world at this point, and is just a not a person but a force. But Casca, who has just reclaimed her identity and has gone on the most insanely long, grueling, and ultimately beautiful journey to reclaim who she is. I was so moved by that return that the thought of anything that just goes, and now you are a damsel in distress immediately, there's a little bit of your mind is back, but your role and who you are and what you are is a being of no agency. That makes me feel really sad, because I feel like a big part of reclaiming her character, it's not just like, it's that awesome badass from back in the day. It's her reclaiming her agency as a character,
And it's like there's so many, like, remember they dress her in like the big leafy dress, and then she's kind of like, I'd prefer the armor.
Yep.
And then the first thing we do is put her in a dress again, and it's like she's sipping tea, and like I found that whole sequence like I felt like, am I missing something here? Because I'm like, why is Casca acting this way? And then it's kind of like she's in a sort of illusion, or she's kind of brainwashed, or
it's like I guess that we're meant to take that she kind of accepts that this is something she can't do anything about until she and so she just kind of goes along with the fact that she's been abducted in this way. And
I just feel like Casca would never do that.
It's like if this was no memory of her in, you know, her broken state, and she's just going from Eclipse to now, that'd be one thing. But it's not. She's integrated the Eileen part of her character into her, and so she has all the memories of everyone. And yeah, it's just like, so on the fly over back to the capital, she just gave up, I guess, and then they dressed her up and they're giving her the royal treatment, and she's being treated like one of Griffith's playthings. And, you know,
like what's Griffith's motivation for having her there?
Yeah, and is it just the idea that I'm taking back what I think is mine, or I want you to further suffer, or or maybe again what we thought with Morning Dew was there's an element of regret that is still within him that he thought was gone that it turns out is not. But what it does feel like is, well, he's taking her so that now there is a reason for the main party to seek Falconia besides just revenge, which, on its own wouldn't be a noble enough cause. And,
and it hurts because, like, I'm sure at some point we were building to a showdown between Guts and Griffith in Falconia. I just don't know that this is that satisfying a way to get there.
So it feels like the pieces moving into place involve Kushan, who invade the boat that they're on. And it's a bit odd because it's like, it seems like it's a showdown, but I guess it's bloodless. Because they really do have essentially like a invasion of the boat and they fight, but it's not fully aggressive. And I guess it's because Silat is now in charge of the Kushan, and Daiba is with them.
I did get really hyped to see Silat again.
Yeah. That's it is cool. And
with Daiba, I kind of feel like, wait, no, you found your place as like just a stable person.
He did,
and that was incredible because Griffith created a place so wonderful that this end of level boss is cool to just fucking mind horses, and he's like, yeah, this is great. And now he's taking up like a more active role in the plot again. And like, I like Daiba, but I'm kind of like, it just feels like there's a lot of characters who are taking hard right turns.
He unretired, but in meeting up with Rickert and everyone, and it does feel like essentially the B group, and this is something that happens in a lot of stories, but the B group unites and they set the foundations so that. Even though the world has fallen, or even though the world has ascended, I should say, it seems like the Kushan Empire, Rickert, Daiba, and Silat are forming the foundations of an army that will be alongside the main party as they gear up for the final battle. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
We take a quick detour over to Falconia, and we see the Band of the Falcon, where Grunbeld, Locust, Irvine, and Zod are hanging out, and they kind of see as like Griffith returns and all that. But and then there's a quick mention of like the East, so Griffith is going to turn to attack that which is outside of his reason, and that's of course the remnants of the Kushan. Even though,
and like, so I liked that stuff, but even like, the way it wasn't even fully apparent to me that that's what was happening on Elf Island when it was happening, and then this bit kind of cleared it up, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it was apparent more. It was fresher in my memory because I remember that Griffith sent Grunbeld and the full Band of the Falcon after Shirka's teacher, right? And the only reason they went after her was because she was outside of his magic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so all outside threats have to go. So it's just another one, The fact that like someone as strong as Daiba even exists, it's like, yeah, that's a target on the radar, no doubt. I do love the first time, and this continues to be a thing, the fact that Daiba calls Guts the Kshatriya of Durga is so fucking cool. I love that because it's literally just taking, like, the history of, like, mysticism and the Indian gods, and you have, like, literally the Kshatriya, the warrior of Durga, the goddess of protection, war, and motherhood, and like, it's like, yeah, that's what Guts can activate in club, and he frames him as his role in history as opposed to his being or sorts. That's a little a fun touch and such, but I think so. We see as well essentially that Guts is kind of just like, he's broken, and everyone seeing him is like, yo dude, come on. Isidro's like, what the fuck, man, fight back, and they just got him in chains. There's nothing left to him. Why would there be, right? He just watched absolute helplessness occur where it's like, like, the idea of, like, what was the plan? How are you going to ever take on Griffith? Like, we kind of don't really know. But despite all that, the struggling, as Skull Knight would put it, felt like it was worth something for their internal growth, even though externally factors were always beyond their control. And in order to get Guts to break one more time, we have to just remove Casca as a character from the story once again, and just make it so that, like, the brief moment you get with her return is just lost, and she's now back mentally, but she's just in a, like, I hate that for the character. I hate that for...
To me, there's so much more meat on the story of Guts and Casca being forced to travel together and forced to come to terms with what Griffith is. And, like, maybe we're still going to get something like that. I don't know. But, what I do know is that no matter what is happening in Berserk, I don't need Berserk to pay off things. I love it when I'm reading it. I love being in the moments. And I just didn't get that from so much of this stuff. And, like, there's times where I'm like, fuck, look at these guys just, like, trying their asses off. Yeah. Like, one of the hard things is, like, I think it's really difficult to draw Griffith with the majesty that Miura injected into him in the later Falconia arc. And I can see them, like, scraping at that. I can see them getting close. And I look at that and I'm like, I respect that so fucking much.
Yeah,
but it's also, it's not there.
And I don't know if you have the same feeling as I do on this, but I do feel that, like, even going back to just the chapters just before, right, with Miura, the final Casca retrieval, it does feel, to be fair to Gaga and Mori, that Miura is almost reluctant to let you feel a little too much joy. Because think about how Casca's return is immediately flanked by, I'm freaking out when I see him, right? And anyone else, I feel, would be like, oh, just let them have this. It's been 20 years. It's been 30 years. Just let them have this, And even after all this time, he still said, no, not yet. She needs to figure out how to handle, like, her feelings about him and her response to him, despite the fact that we know she loves him. And so I guess that feeling of, like, hey, we're not going to give you all the roses you're wanting as a viewer is like, we're being denied by Miura. So to be now further denied by Mori is like, yeah, he did just do that. But
I hear you, but when that happens, when Casca couldn't face Guts, I was devastated.
Yep.
I was, like, emotionally, like, oh. When Casca was kidnapped by Griffith, I was like, oh.
Right. Because one has a resolution that requires more growth.
And just absolutely fantastic like interplay between these two characters. These kids have some fucking shit to sort out, but like Casca being kidnapped by Griffith, like it's a plot problem.
Yep.
It's not a character problem.
Now, this is going to be fucking crazy what I'm about to do. But I ask you to bear with me for a half second.
Okay.
Gundam Seed.
Guys, thank you for joining us on Versus Wolves today. We're delighted to have you all with us as ever. Check out versuswolves.com or patreon.com/versuswolves podcast. I can find Woolie at Woolie Versus. I am at Super Eyepatch Wolf. Guys,
hey,
Shane,
hey,
roll Shane, for the love of God, roll the credits.
Hey.
Shane, Fox, please.
Versus Wolf.
Gundam Seed
Okay, we're here.
has
We're
a
here, fuck
character.
it, I guess. Hell of a run on Versus Wolves. Hell of a run.
Has a character called Kigali who's in it and has a pretty good role in that initial season. And they go through some ups and downs and whatnot, but at the end of the day, come through the other side. And it's Atheron's sister, and she's strong, and that's cool. The beginning of Gundam Seed Destiny involves a ship flying down and kidnapping her. The bad guy just literally drops down, grabs the strong girl, throws her in the ship, and flies away, and just undoes and turns her into a damsel in distress, literally, and just unmakes the entire character in one fell swoop. I've never watched it, but again, to continue, if we're getting crazy, why not continue being fucking crazy and bring up Sword Art Online? Apparently, I know, in the middle of a Berserk discussion, it's insane.
Woolie, buddy, you're
It's
fucking killing me here.
It's insane.
You're killing me.
I remember being told about how a character assassination occurs somewhere at the end of that first season or so that just unmakes and undoes an entire character as well in a very similar fashion to what I just described with Gundam Seed Destiny. Those are really not great pieces of media, and I can speak more so about Gundam Seed in particular because of how much that thing has fucking haunted me, but regardless. Amongst the things that I hated the most were those moments where characters learn backwards, where progress regresses, where we take something that we moved past and we just put you literally in a dress in a castle far away for you to be retrieved later. And that just feels like an amateur way to approach things. And that sucks because I hate to feel that here, but I don't know why you would do this in this way. And I even thought to myself as I was reading this that I'm like, if you had to put the pieces in place, and I say this without knowing where they're going, so that the party has a reason to go to Falcone and do all this, like, I mean, if I don't know, like, it doesn't make sense, but it's like, if Casker were around and had to go through some sort of new struggle that we found ourselves with, and almost in exchange for that, you find that you lose another character, right? If Shirke was not around for some reason, or something like that. I feel like I've seen stories do this, where you get something, but you lose something, and then you now get to spend time here while examining what this relationship that you took for granted actually is, right? If something like that occurred, I could understand a little bit more, as we're changing the group dynamic once more, and still allowing this character that has reclaimed their agency to confront what it means after all this time. But it feels like that's all just on pause and on hold. And if Guts rushes in there and uses a magic dragon slayer of causality to somehow slash Griffith open in some way, or I don't know. But then Casca still looks at him and freaks out. Who the fuck cares how we got here and what we did? She still can't look at him. Does that make sense?
No, I get you. You know, I would really have loved to seen. It's so shady to say. I would have loved to see Miura's version of how the casket and gut stuff resolves, but we don't get that. And there is this, and it sucks. Like, I'm not talking about the manga. I'm talking about the feelings that come with it.
Yep. Yep.
So I don't know. Like, I don't have much more to say about it. I really profoundly mean this. I wish I liked it better. And I feel bad for not liking it more. But I said when I brought this up that we're going to be honest. And I don't know how much further I go with this. I think Berserk for me ended when Miura did, and that's still the case.
Okay. I mean, it's going at a pace that I think, there's more than enough time to sit and think about this. But I think as it concludes, if that's where they are concluding, I think I'm going to go to the end just to see and to know how this plays out. I
mean, yeah, I think when it's all done, I'm going to go read it.
Yeah. But yeah, I just think that in this single volume or so, I was prepared for certainly the possibility that things might not move forward at all. I was prepared for the possibility that it just adopted a glacial pace while it figured itself out, but actually things really abruptly started moving. And I
think I would have been okay with the glacial pace. Like, I think that could have been interesting, but I also understand why you don't go with that.
Mm-hmm. And for sure, now, make no mistake, leaving on Griffith standing in front of them it's hard to return to a glacial pace after that kind of moment.
They were it's for so many different angles, they were left in an impossible position.
But I don't know how you take it from here. And you know what I will even say, if I'm being objective and honest, if Miura also intended for Casca to reawaken, but still be traumatized and not be able to face Guts, and then slowly start to acclimate, but then get kidnapped again, and then Guts get broken again. And if that was directly what his actions and decisions would have been in his version of the script, I would still be questioning what more we're doing with this relationship. I would still be going, okay,
yeah, of course. Yeah, for sure.
Here? So yeah, I just, I like I said, I can see the dominoes in place for a potential moment where Guts comes out the other side and grows. But I just hate that to put those in place, you have to just make Casca irrelevant and act out in a way that is, again, unlike her. And she resists for a bit, but then just kind of ultimately breaks again, and we don't know enough about where Griffith is at, and that continues to be the case. But I feel like this is not doing her justice, and she's my favorite part of everything about where the story went and how it ended with the final chapters. So her getting it the worst in this way makes it really sting more than anything else they could have done at this point.
Yeah. I guess final thoughts for me is I think there's considerable effort here, and I respect the hell out of it. I wish I liked it better, and I think if people are kind of you're not giving it a fair chance or whatever, I can't really convince you that I am, but I can promise you I tried. And if you're enjoying it, if you're well, this is just more Berserk, I would kill to feel that way. And I wish that was the conversation that we were having. And I think that's kind of it.
I feel knowing, like you said, that this is there's always going to be a closed bracket and an open bracket for this new path that we're taking. I feel like I can still wait to see where they're going and what they're setting up here, right? What these pieces are with this Eastern Exile arc. And because they're not complete, I feel like I can't be complete in my judgment, because who knows? right? I might
Yeah.
I might be surprised by where things go, but I'm confused right now, and where it goes might have an answer. But that's going to have to be up to the future, which is why I'm going to confirm once it's out.
I think one of the biggest differences in like how we kind of approach media, Woolie, and I think what makes a lot of our conversations kind of interesting is that you are very much about like the long con and seeing where things are going and paying off. For me, a lot of the time art is very experiential in the moments and how I feel from all the tiny details and how the story comes together. And it is those tiny details that are missing here for me, and that's where the heartbreak is coming from. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does, because you went in with an honest spark that was there was a chance that you were going to give to what you were reading that it would feel alive again.
And that, like, I just couldn't snuff out that spark.
Yeah.
I tried.
Yeah.
But I think there was always a piece of me that was hoping one day I'm going to open this up and it's going to be like we remember. And, you know, it's not. And that is completely fair to the team. But yeah. You know what, Woolie? I'm going to say this one doesn't get ranked in the Pantheon
I was about
of
to
greatness.
say,
I don't think we can do no.
Do we dare?
I am not having a conversation which is better, New Berserk or Cyber 6. I don't want to do that. I can't. I guess the Cyber 6 theme song is okay, Woolie, but that bit where Casca gets kidnapped.
Now, what about the New Berserk versus Police Knots? We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that.
We're not going to do that.
We're not going to do that. Hey, man. I am nonetheless honored that you asked me to come along this journey and
do this dance.
And you know, we took a step off that ledge, and there was no Indiana Jones bridge.
I mean, look, it was, you know, it was a pleasure to do it with you, sir, and may there be many more bridges we leap off over the course of this podcast.
And hit every branch on the way down.
Woolie, we got one final sponsor for this video. And it is me.
Chat, let me ask you a question. You ever want to just hurt someone? You've all seen that humiliating footage of Crow, right? Can you imagine thinking you're so strong and cool, and then one day just bam, that happens? And then some little angel films it and uploads the vid for the whole city to see? I don't know about you guys, but I would actually want to die, like actually. Like crawl into the gutter and never show my ugly face again. So, you want to know what I say, chat? In honor of the little skank's long overdue downfall, I'm gonna be dropping a very special merch run, featuring not only that pathetic waste of skin at her absolute worst, but also our girl Damage, who we can all thank for bringing that disgusting crow crashing down to earth. And you love supporting your angel mama, right? Then get your cute little butts over to eyepatchwolves.com. Pronto.
Woolie, I like to sell t-shirts. I like selling them. They're good quality t-shirts. I put a lot of effort. I'm wearing the beautiful Damage Player Select t-shirt right now. For those who are unfamiliar, this is from the Eyepatch Wolves collection, a fake anime that I sell through t-shirts. I love doing it. I put a lot of effort into it. And Woolie can attest that they are some soft, nice t-shirts.
They are very, very soft and very, very high quality and excellently designed by some talented artists. Holy shit.
Very talented. Woolie, not to put words in your mouth here, but would you say that they are both soft enough to nap in, yet look good enough to go out in?
Absolutely. And I'm torn because I don't want to wear them at home lest I, crease them in any way and not have them ready to rock. But you have done an incredible.
Bro, I'll send you some duplicates. It's okay.
But yeah, Eyepatch Wolves. Good shit.
Eyepatchwolves.com if people want to check them out. It's a little passion project of mine, but I really, really do love doing it. And thank you to everyone who's picked up some one. We've got some incredible support and crazy fan art. So yeah, thank you everyone. Which means it's time for Recommend or Die. So I think
that last segment could have just been Die or Die.
Yeah. And in the spirit of the friendship era of Versus Wolves, I think we can just now change this section to recommend. I don't think we need the order. Yeah, recommend. Yeah. You know what, Woolie? I think I can go first here.
Let's have it. What's going on?
And you know what? No villain monologue. No trickery. No intimidation. Woolie, I recommend you Jiu-Jitsu. Kaisen.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty good.
It's pretty good. Specifically, what I'm recommending you, Woolie, is the first season of the anime. There's some caveats with this anime. There is some shit that makes me reluctant to recommend it that we're going to get into properly. They treat animators badly. I want to talk about it properly in the next episode of Versus Wolves. I go back and forth being like, do you not recommend it, or do you recommend it and talk about it? It's fucking hard. Okay. But what I will say, a lot of extremely talented animators did incredible work on this thing. Jujutsu Kaisen is interesting because it is the new number one shonen. It is like, right now, it might be the biggest thing in the world. Mm-hmm. And look, I know sometimes we like to get obscure and we like to get weird with shit. Sometimes I think I want to talk about it. And here's the thing, Woolie. I'm recommending you the first 24 episodes. Get through as many as you can. But what I will say, there's the first season, and then there's the second season known as the Shibuya Incident.
Okay.
Has anything about the Shibuya Incident reached your ears?
No. What's funny is that... Actually, I'll say this after you. Go. No.
I think you are going to watch Jujutsu Kaisen, and for a long time you're going to be like, yep, a shonen anime. I promise we're going somewhere, baby. Okay. Yeah, sometimes you just got to recommend a Big Mac, Look, we're not above the swill of the common people.
If I haven't tasted one, then I ought to. But no, it's funny because actually JJK is one of the first series and first times. So Punch Mom has started that series on her own of no recommendation elsewhere and has gone through it and is currently in there deep.
Oh, I gotta give Punch Mom a shout. Because I still have not reached out to her about Berserk. And now, okay. But
so it's been hilarious because like every time she'd go watch and do stuff, I'd be like, oh, she'd like put on, the headphones or do something to avoid her. So, but like I have been like, oh, so how's that going? And she's like, oh yeah, no, it's pretty cool. And it's this interesting thing because I'm like, there's usually a dynamic of like, oh, I've shown her something or we'd watch something together. But this is one of the first times where it's like, oh yeah, she's letting me know, how it's going.
Wow.
So
okay.
It's been on that list anyway. Yeah.
I will say it gets dramatically better as it goes on.
Okay.
And and again, this is one of those things where it's not going to be next episode. But at some point, this is the jab, and at some point the cross is coming, and I am fucking ecstatic at the thought of us one day covering the Shibuya incident.
Interesting. Okay. I also hear that there are currently 6 chapters from the finale of the manga, right? So
Yeah, if even at this point, yeah.
so that's wrapping up. I'm always happy when a story is wrapping up.
Yeah.
I like a good bookend.
And I'm going to throw in bonus objective there if you want. Jujutsu Kaisen 0 is the movie. You know what? Super, super worth watching. I'm not going to stack it on because 24 episodes is already a lot, but you can watch it independent of the series. You can watch it at any point. It's quite fantastic.
And standalone?
Standalone.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Okay, Woolie. Friendship era. What do you got for me?
Friendship era. Well, I mean, you said it, and, speaking of jabs and hooks, I would like you to experience what it's like, once again, to be a newcomer and the joy of what it's like to, be fresh at something. So, John, I want you to do some boxing. I want you to get some hand wraps. I want you to get some 16-ounce gloves. And I want you to do your best to jab, hook, uppercut, get some footwork going. I want you to find a gym, find some place where you can, get the feel for it. I don't know that you'll be able to necessarily get in a ring and spar, but if you can experience what it's like to feel the pressure of 3 minutes against somebody who knows what they're doing and hit some gloves, hit some mitts, and get some movement going, I'd like you to experience what boxing is like. And I think that, like anybody who's multifaceted in martial arts, you'll probably be able to get a running start with your foundation, But I want you to experience a little bit of the stuff that I think is fun on the combat scale. How does that sound?
That sounds like I just recommended you the most popular anime in the world, and you recommended me getting my fucking ass kicked.
I did not.
Do you fucking see what he does? Do you see what he does? He's doing it again. He's doing it. He is putting me in a situation that is going to turn out bad for me, and then he's gonna, gee willikers, gee show. Oh, did you get beat up, John? Did that hurt?
You don't have to do a round of sparring if you
That's
can.
what you always say. You always say I don't have to do something, but you know I will. You know I will.
Okay, but logistically, I know that a random new person walking into a gym and getting in the ring might be disrespectful and weird on a whole other level. So, literally, if you can find somebody who knows what they're doing to just get some mitts and work with you and get some feelings going. And if they put on some other mitts and you go a little back and forth and you feel it a little bit, then that's cool. I'm not saying go get your bell rung. I'm not asking you to go get your bell rung. I legitimately want you to experience the fun and the joy of footwork, of movement, of 1-1-2, of the sweet science.
Jiu-jitsu is a noble art. It's a gentle science in a lot of ways, Woolie.
The sweet
Boxing
science.
is for savages.
The sweet science. And I think, too, that, like I said, for real, you're already an athlete.
Sake, I swear to fucking God,
You're already somebody.
Oh, shut the fuck up, Woolie. Jesus Christ. Friendship era, done.
Friendship
over.
era!
Finished.
How is this not? I am sweaty and overweight, and I enjoyed Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I made a friend out of that. That was a great time. I was nothing but love for the recommend.
You know I can't make friends, Woolie. Ugh.
And you know what? If you can get the Killer Instinct TJ Combo theme playing in the headphones while you're at it, you're going to have
Of course I'm going to get the Killer Instinct
time.
TJ Combo theme playing in the headphones, Woolie.
You're going to have a great time. All right?
Fine. Let's just end this podcast.
So, hey, look at that. Once again, Woolie is just a mirror. I'm just a lot of the time my recommends are just a mirror, but in this case it's legitimately it's a good ass time, you know. Do what you can and let us know yeah, I'm still in the friendship era.
I know a certain percentage of the audience sees what you're doing. I know they do.
I'm a certain percentage what?
Certain percentage of the audience see what you're doing. I know they do.
I am continuing to embrace this new era. I think it's awesome. I think it's great. I'm really happy for it. And, you know, like, hey, you can walk away from it if you want to, but I'm holding on regardless. So we are still firmly in the friendship era, John. I'll see you next month.
I'll see you next month.